remember.
18.
What? Where is
17,
it?
Jordy, we've got to abort.
14,
No, wait, I found it.
10,
Let's
7,
rock and roll.
6.
Cause I've got faith of the heart.
Welcome to Raw Rant, everyone. Greetings, you sexy pop culture junkies, and welcome back to Raw Rant, where entertainment is the objective, and who knows, you might even learn something. We're here hanging out with some of your favorite nerds to hopefully stimulate your brains and recharge your geeky souls. I'm your host, Shane, and with me, as always, is our master on the boards, Brian. Also with us tonight is the man who made Free Enterprise, which has nothing to do with the Enterprise legends on our show today, but the irony is not lost on me. From the Burnett work, Robert Meyer Burnett.
Thank you for having me. It's, I was saying to Dominic, Connor, the last time I saw you, we were working on the Blu-rays for Enterprise, and we had all of you together at CBS, the whole cast, and then we all went to Soho House.
That's right.
We finished. So it's good to see you again. It's been 10 years.
Nice to see you.
Also with us is a man who pissed off everyone last week with his et tu brute attack on episode 9 of Star Trek Picard season 3 from the Salty Nerd podcast, Matthew Kadish.
Boo! To be here. Connor and Dominic, I used to work at Paramount while you guys were doing the show Enterprise. I'd sneak on the set all the time, but I've actually bought you lunch a couple times at Star Trek Las Vegas. I don't know if you recognize me or not, but
not without your mask on.
Yeah, you guys and Nicole DeBoer, you sat down next to me at the bar. I was like, I got you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
At the Mexican joint.
Yeah, the Mexican joint, exactly.
I remember.
I always remember a free meal, mate. Let me tell you.
And tonight's special guests on Raw Rant need no introduction to Star Trek fans, though I'll give you one anyway. You may know them as Trip Tucker and Malcolm Reed from a badass show called Star Trek Enterprise, or perhaps Michael from Stargate Atlantis, or Will from Heroes. But if you are a part of this awesome Star Trek fan community on YouTube, then you definitely know them from the ShuttlePod show. Along with show host, producer Erica LaRose and producer Mark Cartier, please help us welcome Connor Trinneer and Dominic Keating.
Woo! Woo!
I knew.
Hey, guys.
We are just so happy to have all of you on the show here today. We've bumped into you guys a few times at the conventions, as the guys have mentioned here. And now all Star Trek fans have the wonderful opportunity to meet the gentlemen behind their favorite Star Trek show, as well as be entertained by the wonderful Erica and Trekspert Mark. And you guys just dropped your 50th episode yesterday. Can you tell us the story of how ShuttlePod became a reality?
50. God, feels like 150. Let me tell you.
50. Oh.
It can't be 50.
Well, you have 50 videos for sure. So
Okay.
I believe it's our 30th interview.
okay,
Is that
30th
right?
interview. Yes.
Well, we've done Q&A stuff, haven't we? And just, bits and bobs, dribs and drabs. But yeah, 30 interviews, is it? 30? Wow.
Well, we've got to give credit to the Delta Flyers, because Dominic and I were in line for the photo ops in Vegas and struck up a conversation with Garrett about his experience with Delta Flyers, and we sort of looked at each other and thought, well, maybe we should do that.
Yeah. I kicked his heel and said, yeah, why aren't we doing that? And then Garrett looked at me rather condescendingly and said, you can't work a computer, Dom.
Yeah.
God, I wish I had known that.
Well,
Right.
okay. You got a point there.
So you guys,
And then I'd done a movie with Mark probably the previous year, and I'd mentioned this to him, and he said, please let me produce this, and I could knock this out of the park, and which he has done in spades.
Yeah.
And Erica came along to be our third co-host, and off we went.
awesome. And that's from Dark Harbor, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Which all three of you guys were on it. I know Dominic wasn't on Dark Harbor. So that's kind of, Erica, is that you came from Dark Harbor as well? Is that where the relationship begins?
Yeah. I mean, I met Mark in New York City in 2017, but I met Connor in Maine on that film in 2018.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Good times.
Good times.
So many fans,
Elaborate.
Many fans don't realize that the actors. Actually, let me go to this one. For Star Trek fans and science fiction fans not subscribed to the ShuttlePod show, please make sure you go over and do that right after we're done here today. We'll have links in the description below. But I have to tell you all, for anyone interested in the history of Star Trek, your shows are must-see TV. Your interview with Rick Berman alone netted us incredible background info we rarely get. Was that the idea coming into creating this show, or has it evolved into what it is today?
I slipped some psilocybin into his tea before we started that interview. and it worked. It just worked a treat.
He's hard to get information out of.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, that's what we were told, but he was ready to keep talking and talking and talking.
Yeah. And it was a great interview. We went over to his house. He was very, very generous and hospitable. It was lovely to see his wife, Liz, again. And it was really. And I think we'll go back at some point. There'll be a take 2.
Oh, we'd love that. Yeah, you can't get enough information from him. When you guys started doing this, did you know this was what it was going to be? Was it going to be interviews with people? Did you kind of have that? How did that get fleshed out? Because you really hit a stride here.
We were basically gonna copy what Garrett and Robbie were doing, which is, discuss episodes of Enterprise. And I guess.
Well, we wanted to be inspired by it, not exactly copy it. We weren't quite sure what the format was going to take. And
we guess
just wanted to see how they work in the room. Yeah.
We got John Billingsley was our inaugural guest, and the stories flowed, and John's a great teller, and suddenly it was like, well, we got something else here. If we can get a guest on every week, let's see how that goes. And here we are, 30 guests later.
Just kind of keeps going.
Fantastic guest. Lots of energy. It's awesome.
Yeah, many fans don't realize that the actors on their favorite shows, including Star Trek, aren't necessarily huge fans of the franchise. And it'd be probably fair to say both of you guys fell into this category. But that said, Connor, you said something very interesting recently, that as you've been doing research for your ShuttlePod shows, you found a new appreciation for the franchise. Can you tell us more about how doing this show has made you a better Star Trek fan?
Yeah, well, doing, like you said, the research for our various guests and looking at Mark will have sent lists of, important episodes to watch. And it's how I became such a big fan of Deep Space Nine. I really didn't know that much about the show, and really have come to love that show, and the acting in it and the writing in it was just top notch. And so, I mean, I did not walk into this. It's odd, a big portion of our career had to do with Star Trek, but not necessarily as a viewer. And that appreciation and just real kind of fandom has occurred through doing this show.
Yeah, awesome. Without a doubt. I mean, I'd not seen. I've maybe seen a dozen episodes of our show prior to sitting down to do this podcast, and I just thought it was important that I should go back and watch the whole bloody thing. So I started with that, and I've now seen the large sway of Next Generation, most of all of Deep Space Nine. I've now watched everything but the last episode of Picard, and seen a few Prodigies too. And I shall embark on Strange New Worlds shortly. Voyager, I've seen. I'm still, because we had on from Voyager. I've seen a bit of Voyager. We've
had Tim Russ.
Tim. So I saw some Tim episodes. I'm still resentful that if they had come home in a timely fashion, we would have done 7 years, or at least 5. So there's a resistance there, I will say.
Well, bitter. Dominic, you have your own Voyager story. So you were actually going to be on Voyager first, or at least being considered.
Yeah, that's right.
And so we actually did an entire documentary called The Definitive History of Star Trek Enterprise, where we kind of go into your story, and as well as a really good one with Connor. Can you share that Voyager story? And do you think that impacted you being on Enterprise?
Well, I was a guest star audition for, I briefly remember it was to play the sort of prince of a nomadic space tribe or something like that.
Right.
And I went in for an in-person interview like you used to in those days, and everyone was in the room. Rick Brannon, Mary Howard. It was a packed room. These, you walk out of those rooms and you're either going to get it or you're not. And I remember ringing my manager directly, going to the car. We're doing Star Trek next week. That went really well. Make no mistake. Never heard another fucking word from him.
But then you found out your picture was on Rick's desk, right?
He came up to me at the end of season 1 as we were shooting ShuttlePod 1 and said, I'm not sure if you're aware, Dominic, but I remembered you from that Voyager audition, and I've had your photograph on my desk for about a year and a half, 2 years. And I was like, wow. Have you any idea what those years were like, Rick? A little text, just keep the fires burning. Keep the fires burning, Dom. Anyway, but yeah, he always had me in mind. God bless. He didn't want to waste me on on a guest audition. I mean, they could have put a ridge on my nose, and I could have been anyone. I mean, I could have done with the money right then, frankly.
That's true.
Jeffrey Combs has played every part under the sun 1,000 times. No one seemed to care.
He is a legend. Yes.
Yeah. So.
Connor, you have a pretty interesting story. So Trip, you had probably the most grueling of all the audition process.
They tortured him.
Yeah.
They did. I was there. They had nipple clamps, everything.
Kind of.
Didn't you find out in Mexico that you got the part?
Yeah.
I think Connor's muted.
Oh, he's gone again. No, he's gone. Hang on, let me text him.
He's not muted.
What's good is I like hearing, he's just rocking here. Anybody know sign language?
He's
I know the story. Dom knows.
He is responding. We need a lip reader.
I know the story.
He's got himself muted.
I'm trying to unmute.
This is what it looks like when a bunch of old guys do tech, and trust me, we're included.
I think he muted his mic.
Oh.
Yeah. He's muted himself.
It says can't unmute because the guest has disconnected his
So
microphone.
like he was muted before, but then he muted in StreamYards as well. So he needs to
Oh,
mute
I see.
StreamYards.
Well, he'll figure it
his
out.
phone.
He'll figure it out.
Let's Dominic, tell us a funny joke. No, just kidding.
My joke at the center. This is my favorite one right now.
Soviet.
What doesn't buzz and doesn't fit in your ass?
Oh, Jesus, what?
A Soviet-made ass buzzer.
Oh, God.
Oh my God.
What is happening?
Now we know why
Best
Connor
joke
muted
ever.
himself.
Hey, while Connor is fixing that, let me read some super chats here.
Okay.
Question of Trek. Has Dominic ever made Connor smile after calling him stinky, asking for a friend?
I may have got a smirk out of him. Sure. Yeah.
That's a great nickname. Where did where did Stinky come from?
Brown and Bragger's deranged mind, the labyrinthal, mind of Brannon's, duplicitous erotic mind. I don't know.
Do you guys stay in touch with Brandon?
You can quote me on all that.
Have you guys stayed in touch with Brandon?
Yes, we are in touch, and he knows. He came on the show, and I am in touch with him a little bit. We're trying to bag a big fish through Brandon right now, so I'll keep you posted on that, and we will see. Yeah,
awesome.
But we're not as close as we used to be. I mean, it's Hollywood moves on, and he's gone to different shows. But yeah, we're still texting, and every now and again we see each other.
Connor's back.
All right.
Yeah.
There we are.
Wow, technology. Sorry, guys.
So Connor, we were asking about and you probably already explained this. So can you give us the clip version of when you became when you got the role for Trip? You were in Mexico, right?
Yeah. Now I had I think at that point I had done 6 auditions for the show, and they didn't. But you're supposed to have 5 business days wherein they tell you have it or you don't. And they were still trying to figure this out. They had a guy that UPN had on hold, and work was trying to push for him. Rick and Brandon were pushing for me. And then I went to Mexico just to, piss off and have a long lost weekend because I was obviously stressed out about this. And then I came back, and eventually a couple days later, they did tell me that I had the job. But I had by far the most stressful audition process.
Are you guys science fiction fans from the start? Like when you were kids, were you sci-fi fans, or landing these roles was just, trying to climb the ladder?
I watched the original shows
I wasn't.
growing up. Yeah. It was a big deal on British telly.
Oh.
But I can't say that I was, a dyed-in-the-wool science fiction, budding fan star. No. And I wandered off after the original series, and then came back when I came to America, because Patrick Stewart was a British actor and one of the first to lead an American TV show. That caught my interest, and I think I've told this story a few times, living on a commune where there were two guys, one of whom was British actually, and the other just absolute fanboys, big potheads, fanboys of Star Trek, and they'd settle down every evening to watch Star Trek. And Victor said, they had a edition that would literally, I was living in a commune. He said, Dami, get a TV and I'll hook you up and you can watch TV. And I was like, great. What he neglected to tell me was I had to watch what he watched. And he only watched two things. It was either Star Trek or XXX rated porn from fucking Canada.
Well, if you got to choose from two things.
I know. I'd say you've got your bases covered there,
That's a big night.
A bit of VR maybe, but other than that, I'm good.
Connor, it's funny that you
I started watching a bit of Next Gen then. Yeah.
So did you find it really ironic to be honest?
The plot helps. Especially in the first 4 seasons. That plot really helps.
Right. Well, speaking of 4 seasons, you guys went 4 seasons. Was there a sense of, because the show was getting better? I think 3rd season and 4th season really hit its stride with Manny kind of writing the episodes. Were you bummed when it ended? Were you ready to move on? What was the feeling?
We didn't care. Come on. Why would we care?
I wanted to get on a vampire show. We were bummed. Because we were bummed.
No, we were very disappointed. Disappointed. We did feel the same way about season 4. That was completely out of our hands in terms of, there was a lot of politics going on at the network and the studio that we were a victim of. I think, the network itself didn't exist as it stood then, probably 2 years after that.
Yeah.
But you signed on the dotted line. Yeah, and you signed on the dotted line for 7 years, and everybody else had gone 7, and they told us to buy our houses when we first got the job, and 4 years later we were looking for work.
Yeah. So Terry Matalas, who's brought back Picard and the TNG crew, we've been pushing for him to do the same thing for Enterprise. Would you guys come back for one more ride?
Sure.
Yeah.
No problem.
I still fit in my costume.
What are you saying about Connor?
They might have to let that one out.
Every single chance you get, don't you? Every single chance you get.
Some of the sexiest moments on TV were you guys in the decontamination chambers.
Oh.
And, it's not lost on any of us how sexy all of you guys were on the show. Connor, I find it funny
I'm dead.
What's that?
Problem. I'm dead.
We'll find a way to bring you back. If they want to bring you back, they'll find
you. You're fat?
No, he said he's dead.
I think Picard season 3 might have retconned that. I think there's an argument to be made that Picard season 3 has inadvertently made sure you're actually alive, Connor.
Explain, Rob.
That's exactly what's happened. Yeah.
Well. So at the Fleet Museum in Star Trek Picard season 3, you get to see the NX-01, your starship, the refit version of it. So it has continued on beyond These Are the Voyages. So it might have inadvertently said to the fans that, nope, that last episode is not real.
Was a
Ooh,
shower
never
scene.
happened. So I think that was intentional.
All right.
So the showrunners
Oh.
have made sure that you're still alive, Connor.
The door's open.
My God, you guys certainly nerd out, don't you?
That's what it's all about, right? Well, and it's funny because Terry worked with you guys on Enterprise, and you know, and I'm sure he has fond memories of you. And you guys remember Terry from Enterprise, right?
Bad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, don't say that. You got to say yes. We totally remember him. He was fantastic. So they bring you
You've
back.
only got a couple of coffees for us once or twice. This is what I remember.
That was his job, I think. Yeah. But no,
Sorry, Terry. I know I'll never get on a Terry show now. I know.
I think he'd love to keep.
He was
doing stuff
great.
no
He was
matter what.
Brandon's assistant. Yes, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Connor, I find it funny that you were not a sci-fi fan, yet you ended up going from Star Trek to Stargate Atlantis and becoming this like fan favorite character in Michael. But yet then the show ended abruptly again. So what was that experience like for you going from sci-fi to sci-fi?
He's the counselor.
Is it your fault that
Yeah,
all these shows end up ending?
I've canceled 2 shows. It's funny because out of the gate when the show was over, I told my agent, I don't think I want to do a sci-fi show just now. And then this came up in the breakdowns, this Michael character, and I remember calling him, foot and mouth and saying, "Hey, I know what I said, but I'd like to get a read for this." And then he called them up, and he called me right back about 5 minutes later and said, "It's yours if you want it." So I didn't really know what to expect, but it was a nice run.
It was a great character. He was
Yeah,
a
I love
vampire,
playing.
right? That's what you're talking about, Dominic,
He
earlier,
was a
right? You're
wraith.
like, you
So
wish you
he
were
was
a
a
vampire.
hybrid wraith.
Right.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
a hybrid wraith. That's what made him special.
Well, they're talking about bringing Stargate back.
Wait, and Connor
I've
was
heard that.
also played the father of Stargate travel in Origins.
That's right.
A double role.
That's right. Yeah, I played an old man.
Right.
Who's your next guest coming on the ShuttlePod show? Can you share that?
Todd Stashwick.
Oh, he's
Captain
awesome.
Shaw.
This Wednesday.
Wednesday.
He's a great interview. We had him a
He's
couple
great.
weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
So are you guys watching Picard season 3? I think, Dominic, you said you are, right?
I'm halfway through episode 8 as we speak.
No, Mark is.
As of lunchtime today, I was watching. And is it me or is it? It's a tiny bit confusing. What's exactly going on?
Well, tell us. What do you think? What's going on?
Well,
me.
Is he or isn't he? The son. The red eyes. They go red and then they don't go red.
Be careful, Dominic. People will
This is
accuse you of nitpicking.
But we'll see. All's revealed in the 9th episode, isn't it? And but I like watching the band come back together. They're all terrific. They look fantastic. God bless LeVar and Michael. Just are glowing. Well, they all are, frankly. And it's really it's nice to see them come back and that 20-year history of being friends now sort of just deepens the acting and the scene playing all the more. And as an actor, that's very encouraging and lovely to watch. That it's nice to see just the spark,
Just to kind of see it happening. And
yeah, really. I mean, the scenes with Marina and Marina hasn't got a lot to do, but the stuff she's doing with Jonathan in this 8th episode is just you can't. That's beyond acting. It's got an extra ingredient in it, which is we've all known each other for 20 years as human beings, and you can't fake that. It's really quite good. Yeah.
I wanted to ask Connor and the rest of the crew. There's this thing called the Galaxy Quest syndrome, where basically you have a group of actors and they're playing like a kind of regimented hierarchy crew. You got the captain, you got the XO, stuff like that. But for the actors, it's just like you're all equal, like you're all just kind of on the same playing field. Has there ever been a situation where on set, maybe Bakula started throwing his weight around, acting like he's really in charge, and you guys just had to slap him down or something?
He never did that. God bless. We were blessed. Yeah.
Yeah,
and he
great...
had good cause to, particularly on those heavy days on the bridge when, myself especially and Anthony would just be mucking around, cracking jokes, and we had 3 lines for the whole day, and Scott had pages of shit, and he never once turned around and said, "Oi, shut it." Never, not one time. Not one time. We couldn't have been luckier. Yeah.
No, we had the best leader we could have had.
Yeah, there was the one time when he done the upfronts, and they found that commercial of his, the Canada Dry Man, because he was a song and dance dude. And we props made a whole Canada Dry bottles, and we spoofed him good. They sent the PA off to his trailer to bring him on for the day's work on the bridge, and he might have swaggered on that morning, a little captain-y like, until someone goes, "Hit it," and Ben Betts hit the videos, and the Canada Dry commercial came up on every screen on the bridge. And you've never seen a man go from pale to puce red in 0 to 30. It was just like pink. And who's your fucking captain now, mate? Canada Dry Man. You got the bandana on and the leg warmers, and that was some.
We got a super
stuff.
chat from Professor Alfonso. Hi, Connor. It's Fernando from Brazil. Live long and prosper.
Oh,
right.
Hey, man. Yeah. Great time in Brazil with them. They're great fans.
You guys know him, I guess. Okay.
What is live long
Oscar,
and prosper in Portuguese?
what is it? Let's find out.
I don't know.
Find out. Something like that.
We got a super
I'll
chat.
let you know something. My phone just went to 10%. So if I just drop out, it's because of that.
Right.
A real win-win, this one.
You guys are rotten.
We got a super chat from El Presidente Camacho for $20. That's it. He just wanted to give us $20. Thank you,
Thanks, President Camacho.
Hey, did we get any of that?
Sure.
No.
I'm not here for the
Residuals. Yeah.
Speaking of residuals, Mexican Iron Man for $9.99 says, "I love the ShuttlePod show. Such an amazing team and superb guests." Speaking of, where did you meet Mark and Erica?
Oh, he talked about earlier, Dark Harbor.
Well,
I see. Okay.
A swingers bar.
Everyone's a swinger to you. Dom.
That was the response I was looking for. Thank you.
You never know what Dominic's going to say. I love this.
I was
From
wearing
Crazy Ghostbusters. Have you seen your NX-01 at the Starfleet Museum on Starfleet Picard? If so, how did it make you feel? You guys are awesome. Did you guys happen to see your NX-01 ship on Star Trek Picard?
Is that the one? Is that the graveyard? Is it floating around?
Yeah, it's a
in
Fleet
the
Museum,
graveyard?
episode 6.
I wouldn't know it from a hole in the wall, mate, if I saw it.
They never got to see it from the outside, guys. Okay, they were always on the inside of it.
That makes sense.
I think in ShuttlePod 1, we flew past it a couple of
stuck
times.
on
And
the
didn't think
outside
it was
one
ours.
time.
Oh yeah,
You did. You got stuck on the outside. That was actually a really good episode.
I should have known better. Yeah,
Yeah, you literally saw it from space.
I did.
I mean,
you do. You know, it's a TV show, guys. You do know that. Don't you?
Some people don't, Dominic. It's okay. Not sure.
Those that remember that William Shatner SNL bit where he goes off on the
Get a life.
nerds because it's a TV show.
Yeah.
I'd have to see that again too.
I wanted to ask you guys, looking back on the show Enterprise, I think over the last couple of years, it's been reassessed by people, and I hear more people than ever say how good they thought the show was. They might not have watched it as much as they could have when it was first on, but it's sort of been reassessed and people are really loving the show. And I'm just curious, do you guys have favorite episodes that you look back on? Because there's an episode of the second season, Connor, that's a big episode for you called Cogenitor that LeVar Burton actually directed.
Great episode.
Which I think
that was our best one.
I think it's one of the finest episodes of Star Trek, perhaps ever. It's for those of you who don't know, it's about a really nice bunch of folks that the aliens, they're both studying a star, and the Enterprise finds them studying the star, and it turns out they have 3 genders to reproduce. And Connor, your character Trip is not happy about how this third gender is treated, and I'll let people discover what happens. But it's a really hard hitting.
It's because he's from Florida, and
but you Connor, you're amazing in that episode, and it does not end well. I mean, it ends for us, it's a very compelling episode, but it doesn't really end well for your character. And I was just curious, are there episodes that, looking back on, now we're almost 20 years away from the end of the show, that you guys think back fondly on, that you particularly think are standouts from your as actors, or just because you thought the stories were great?
Sure.
Well, obviously, I think ShuttlePod 1 stands right up there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in no particular order after that, for me at least, Similitude, Cogenitor, as you mentioned, Unexpected is a lot of fun. One of my favorites also is, as I believe it's called, The Fallen, where he's meant to write a letter to a woman's parents who was a crew member who's died.
Yeah.
And she comes back a ghost. And he's finding it difficult to write this letter as a result of, I think his sister passing, and he's in a lot of pain, and I think that's also a good episode.
Yeah, because both of you did tremendous work on the show. I think it really holds up.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun, man. They were halcyon years, salad days, and the final episode, These Are the Voyages, just goes down in the annals of Star Trek writing and history.
It was the other time that Scott Bakula was upset, as was reported, right? You guys
I think it's the
happy
only
with him.
time he was upset, really. Yeah.
You guys talked to Rick about that ending, and did you get a new perspective after? I think you did. You got a new perspective from talking to him about how they felt like they were out of time, that they kind of had to wrap up the show quickly. Did that change in your minds? How frustrating it was for you hearing him tell that story?
Well, I think also, he did say, if I remember this correctly, that he had some regrets about that. And the way that went down. And it was nice to hear that. I'll be honest with you, I didn't care. We were done.
Yeah. I was trying to get on Charmed by then.
If it got you a new show, maybe another series.
So I have a.
And Brandon said as much in that 10-year anniversary interview we all did at CBS. That,
you guys roasted him. It was glorious.
They were wrapping up 17 years of their tenure, and it was a clunky device to get Jonathan and Marina on the show. But I have to say, one of the funnest days shooting I ever had was that galley scene with Jonathan Frakes. He's hilarious, man.
Likewise,
yeah. So he's an actor's actor.
How do you like him in Picard season 3? Have you noticed?
I like him plenty, and he's held up. And
so I have a question from Mark and Erica from my podcasting co-host Matt Vader 74. He's curious about how you guys got into podcasting and what all your responsibilities are on the show.
If I may,
you can go first.
I've been obsessed with a game called Fallout forever, so I've been kind of eyeballing podcasting because of Fallout. But it's Connor. It's Connor Trinneer mentioning while we were playing pool that he was talking to Garrett about doing a podcast or maybe something like the Delta Flyers. And I was like, oh my God, a Star Trek podcast. Yes, shit, that's all I want to do now. So, and then we realized very, very quickly that if it was going to be myself and Dominic, that we needed somebody to temper all of us and make us behave, someone to make us look good, so we didn't turn into a boys club, and someone smarter than us. So we got Erica.
It's a pleasure being around a bunch of you guys. For having
That's what we're missing.
The original idea was that I was going to wear a dress. But
yes.
But now you don't have to go shopping for all of them.
It's still an option, Dominic. I'm just saying.
I'm in drag again.
I did a radio show back in Brooklyn for a year, and I was a co-host. So it wasn't a podcast, but that was the first time I did something like this. And then podcasting started to become more popular. And then when you presented the opportunity, I was like, sure. Like I've been around this.
Dominic Keating.
we've been friends with Connor for a bit. I've been friends with Connor for a while, and we get along really well. So, you know, just to have fun and talk about Star Trek on camera seemed like it was no brainer. And then, you know, Dominic wanting to do it, that was really exciting. I don't know, like this is the most fun I've ever had in my life, and the freeing nature of doing a show like this, where you have direct access to your community, that your fandom, and you get you know, direct interaction, and you know, you don't have to wait for some marketing meeting to find out if anyone loves you.
Yeah,
it's awesome. And I feel like there's a whole untapped product, I guess, for the fandom that Connor and Dominic, their unique perspective to the show and the format of our show allows for something that the fandom has not yet seen. And you know, their genuine friendship. I heard Stephen Bear mentioned the other day that he clocked them right out of the gate as being like a genuine friendship, and it's something, you know, like and correct me if I'm wrong, Connor and Dominic, but being on Star Trek makes you a part of a large Star Trek family. But you guys, your genuine friendship is kind of, it adds another whole layer to that. Doesn't.
I think it does.
Yeah.
The point where we don't even have to think about that bit, do we? It's just
No.
the natural ping pong between us. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys play off each other really well. And I got to tell you, it's funny what you said, Mark. I think one of the things that you guys provide, and I think this is actually a pretty serious part of it, is in the YouTube community, it's hard to get access to a lot of these actors who've been on Star Trek who, you know, in order to trust the YouTube is not necessarily trusted by a lot of people. So having trusted faces like you guys who are part of the Star Trek family, who've been there and done that, you're kind of getting them out of the shadows and out and telling their stories. And for a lot of us, this is the first time we've heard their stories. So thank you for doing this community for us fans.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That's lovely, because I mean, I don't know that it just organically happened like that, didn't it, Con? It's not like it was just the first conversation we had with John. It's like, well, where are you from? You know, I've known John for 20 years. I knew a lot about John, but I didn't know, I didn't know a lot. I didn't know everything. So it's like, tell me, and that's how it started.
I think that we also, we don't have a particular agenda about what we have to talk about. You're eventually going to get to Star Trek, but you start asking questions about somebody's life and how they got to be where they are, and interesting things inevitably come out.
Yeah.
So
the clue more is that, particularly when we're talking to actors and maybe directors too, is at what point in your developmental, childhood did you get this wild idea?
Yeah.
You were going to run away to the circus, and like the pair of we did, and how did that formulate? And that that's I find that very interesting, because it takes a certain mindset, a certain deep breath, and a considerable amount of stupid to go and do this, and here we are.
Connor, Dominic, I see you guys at the Star Trek convention here in Las Vegas. Pretty much since I started going in 2014, you guys are always there, and you're always really good with the fans. I was wondering if you had what was the strangest thing that's ever happened to you at a Star Trek convention?
Great question.
Strangest ever?
There's a certain level of strange that just is sort of the standard.
Yeah,
keep it to R-rated.
Standard strange.
How are we spelling strange?
Maybe interesting is a better description.
You get all the. I always go back to Arthur from Australia, who was the meanest drag queen Star Trek fanboy I ever met on a catamaran going around Sydney Harbour. And then some years later, he showed up in Vegas without the dress on. He came up to the mic and he goes, I don't know if you recognise me, but I haven't really got a question for you, Dominic. I've got one for Connor. And I went, is that you, Arthur? And he goes, yeah, mate. And he goes, so those Starfleet knickers that you wore in the decon chamber room, Connor, in season 1 episode, ever wonder what happened to those knickers? Connor's like, nope. I never wondered one.
Never crossed my mind, actually.
Well, what happened to them, Arthur?
Well, I have an answer for him. I bought them on eBay.
He said
That's what he was asking for.
Yeah.
Well, we got him up on stage, and he filled them nicely. I did notice that. They were well packed out, almost a la Connor Trinneer. It's the sort of thing an ex-drag queen artist notices. And
yeah.
Anyway, I signed his bum. Dominic Keating was here. If that's strange enough for you, that's as strange
One of
as
the
I'm going to
stranger
give
things
it.
I did was I actually signed Dominic's butt.
You signed my bum once.
Yeah.
Where was that, in Burbank?
That was in Burbank, yeah.
I was in
Pasadena.
Burbank. I got in his line to get something signed, and as I came up, I wasn't. It was the summer. I was commando, and I dropped the towel and turned my shapely then bum to. And did you sign it? I think you might have done.
Yeah.
There's nothing you guys won't do for fans. I can see
well,
this.
honestly,
that's right.
Connor just produced the marker right away. Wait,
just for a laugh. Yeah, no, I've still got it. I've tattooed at it. Do you want to have a look?
no.
It's okay on this show. I think.
Don't pull a Gavin McGinnis on us, please.
I'm one of
have you got
the tattoo crowd?
I got a super chat from Good Tea Nice House.
So there is a scar there.
What was that, darling?
It was actually an X-Acto knife that I used to sign it. So there's a scar with my name on there.
So it's a scar now. A brand, a Connor brand. He signed his own name. Yeah.
Right.
From Good Tea Nice House for $11. 2 months ago, I stumbled across an old comedy my parents used to watch with a baby-faced white dude working in a black barbershop. Connor, have you ever seen Dominic's performance in Desmond's?
I've not.
No, you're missing something. Oh, you're missing something.
Someone needs to pull that up ASAP.
Can you see it here?
It's if you get BritBox, I think it's on BritBox now. I bet you can YouTube it. And
Yeah, I think I have it.
By the time we next see each other, you better see the few episodes. Otherwise,
I actually, Dominic, you showed me one time, I believe, your first entrance.
That's right. That was a sort of Fonzie entrance, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. I was the white boy, token honky heartthrob on a black sitcom. I don't know if you can still say that.
That was on the script, right? That was the description.
Yes, it was. Token white boy honky heartthrob.
Yeah, I got it right here. We go.
You got it? Let's see it.
Yep, I got it.
What do you got?
There it is. Let's see.
There's none.
Right then, the first cast.
Look at that arse.
All right, the copyrights aplenty there.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
God,
No,
that was that was a lot of fun, man. Norman Beaton was just fantastic. The lead, he was, he'd come over from Guyana in the late 50s, man, and he was he was a trailblazer. Ended up working at the National with the likes of Denham Elliott and I'm trying to think some big names, Peter O'Toole, and he was just brilliant. I learned a lot standing next to Norman Beaton. He was a class act. Yeah.
I've got a question about you guys doing this podcast, I guess, for all four of you. There's a lot of actors now who are doing podcasts, like Michael Rosenbaum's Inside of You. And I really think that you guys came out of the gate really strong. Your content and the interviews you are doing with your guests are really, really good. The show's really well produced. What do you think makes a great podcast? What is it? Do you guys do any kind of rehearsal? Do you do research? Because it's really engaging what you guys have done. I mean, I've done a lot of interviews with Trek Cast before, but you guys have an instant rapport with your guests, and maybe it's because you know them all. But what makes a great podcast?
Well,
I think, if you don't mind, guys, that
Yeah.
why the show works well is because Connor and Dominic agreed right away.
His phone just.
Yeah.
He didn't like your answer.
Do you know what? I know what. It's when. If it was just me, it'd be a really great podcast.
I'm still here.
I think
Connor just drags you down.
We'd be
Tom,
flying.
I think Connor's phone died.
and Erica really bought in right away to the idea that it would be most honest and most engaging if it was just, like Connor and Dominic, they did this thing 2 years ago that is beloved. And now looking back at it, they have an opportunity to reminisce about the adventure they had together 20 years ago, and have an opportunity to invent other people to that campfire. And to just reminisce about the adventure that they all shared. And then we've got a unique perspective with Erica and with me as outsiders. I'm a super fan, she's new to it. Sort of salt and pepper that core of just a couple of people around a campfire sharing their war stories.
Yeah.
Well said.
And I think Mark's put together the framework of a good show that Connor and I perhaps might not have been best suited to. And we work within that framework, and the chemistry we have with each other, Connor and I. And if if we're going to pat ourselves on the shoulder a little bit, it's just the ability to put our guests immediately at ease.
Yeah.
And have a really very intimate, friendly chat that doesn't feel like it's produced at all, although it is. We are.
No, it's really well done.
But thank you. But I think that's the secret sauce, is that. And we were nervous to start those initial interviews. I've never been more nervous than that entrance I made on Desmond's in front of 5 cameras and a live audience 35 years ago. This was going to be a new skill set, listening to people.
Yeah, you guys recently did a live stage reading on the 21st anniversary of the seminal ShuttlePod 1 episode from season 1, episode 16 of Enterprise. That was so much fun. Can we expect more of these?
Yes, I would say. Yeah. Yeah.
David Hewlett.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
To answer the last question about what makes a podcast successful, I think we're just taking a bit of an approach. We're building more of a community. Correct me if I'm saying something wrong.
Oh yeah,
we're making this not just about the talk show or podcast itself, but about a whole community with these live events, with having people come out, and we're soon to have people come to the show eventually, right?
Yeah, well, our goal is to have people, fans of the show, there in the studio with us, maybe do some live shows.
Yeah.
We're experimenting with all of this, and we want to be a part of the community and share this unique perspective that Dominic and Connor have. And like Dominic said, that unique gift that they have to just put all of our guests at ease the moment they walk in the room. They don't feel like they're going to get, interviewed Barbara Walters style. They feel like they're just going to have a conversation with their friends.
Sure.
Speaking of, Erica mentioned our fan base and how including the community in our show is part of what makes it fun. I have to say, I've noticed that a lot of our wash gang, our group of volunteers, are here. So we should just shout you out. Ooh. There's Wash is right there.
He was sitting in your chair a minute ago.
Has Wash had a haircut?
He had a haircut.
He did.
Yeah.
There he is.
Say hello.
Look at that. Wash has gone. He's had a buzz cut. Look at that.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh,
very good.
Great.
He does.
Did you get
we got a super chat here from Kevin C. Love the ShuttlePod show. Enterprise was gone before her time, and Trip isn't dead. I mean, that's obvious now, right? It was obviously a holodeck glitch, probably Barclay's fault. Obviously, with the success of Picard season 3, we need an Enterprise conclusion now. What's funny, Kevin? You remind me of a short conversation I had with Terry, where I pitched my idea for a continuation of Enterprise.
Yes.
Where you just sort of snip that last episode. Like, let's just act like it was a messed up holodeck story that Riker was experiencing. Continue the show and go right into the temporal wars featuring the crew of the Enterprise. But because of temporal shenanigans, they're all 15 years older now.
Ooh.
Or in my case, maybe 10.
Or, in Reed's case, it's only been 2 years because
Dominic looked exactly the same, so like,
right.
it's fine.
Did you guys know that there was a producer named Eric Jedrinson, who was the supervising producer of Band of Brothers, and after Enterprise was over, the current at Paramount, it was Donald DeLine and Carrie McCluggage were running the studio. And they brought Eric Jedrinson over to write a continuation that would take place after Enterprise. And he wrote a draft of what was going to be a trilogy of movies that took place 8 years after the end of Enterprise, where it would be about the outbreak of the Romulan War. And it was it would have had an opportunity for all of you guys to come back. And it was a script that it only had one draft, and then the administration was replaced. Donald DeLine and Carrie McCluggage's studio stewardship came to an abrupt end, and the project died. But it would have been it's a pretty interesting screenplay. Again,
Have you read it?
Yeah, I have it. I can send you a copy if you want.
I was working for Carrie McCluggage when his tenure ended. When this?
It's too bad because they had that script and it was pretty interesting. And what's fascinating about it is it opens with a new group of Starfleet Academy. It's the graduates of Starfleet Academy are the main characters.
Oh, it's the Starfleet Academy script. Oh yes, I know.
Well, it wasn't about. It was just graduation day for them. But it was all about. It was really interesting because it dealt with the Romulans basically want the Vulcans expelled from all the planets that they've come to, and Earth basically tells them F off. We're not going to do that. And it's how the outbreak of the Romulan War happens. It's really, really interesting.
All right.
So they could still make it. I think they should still make it and bring you guys back.
Absolutely.
Bring the whole cast back.
Yeah,
Dominic, I was just wondering, have you ever had any interaction with Shatner?
Oh yes. Yeah, I mean, so Connor and I did a 7-city tour with him and Leonard. It was Leonard's last hurrah doing the conventions. And back in those days, I used to do a bit of stand-up in the evenings, and Bill came to one of my shows. And apparently, according to David Zappone, his producer at the time, doing the documentaries, I woke him up a couple of times. And that's when he came round and he was doing the documentary, The Captains, and asked me if I'd like to be involved in it. And I said, absolutely, sir. And then you've just got to pick your moment with him when you see him at the convention in the green room. He's either got a sign, hello or fuck off on his forehead. It's quite easy to read. There's no mistaking it.
Yeah, you can tell when he's in the mood.
So every now and again, we're chummy, and we're hoping there's a chance there's some sort of communication with him at the moment that we might entice him into the chair.
Ooh.
Yeah, that'd be great. Speaking of Bill, wasn't he supposed to be on Enterprise at one point? Do you know the story behind that?
There was half a story, wasn't there? Yeah. And I'm not quite sure. He probably asked for 350 grand or something, and
yeah.
Sadly, our budget didn't stretch that week.
Roger.
Yeah.
I offered
Super
to go
chat
mow
from
his-
Robert. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I offered to go mow Shatner's yard if he would come and be on our show.
Listen, it's not even my show, but you can include me in that. I'll also mow his yard just to get him on
Maybe
your
I'll
show.
You to mow the yard while I have a cocktail.
Didn't he have a pool?
You can fan him, and while I'm mowing, it works.
I'm
We
just
got a
gonna
super
watch
chat
this.
from Robert Collin. Trip Malcolm, so much love. R&B, thank you for sharing your immense knowledge and experience. Popcast, you've been a great new follow. ShuttlePod, I'll have to check you guys out. Boldly
Awesome.
go. That's awesome. And speaking of ShuttlePod, we got a question for Dominic from Sandra B. Dom, how many hats do you own? You look so debonair in them.
I do. I don't own that many, actually. I don't know. I've got half a dozen, maybe. And I only started wearing them, really, since not cutting my hair through the pandemic. And as my mate from London, who's on a visit to LA, said, "Oh, you've become that ponytailed arsehole, have you?"
Dominic, we're on the same page. I was always a military high end tech. Yeah,
yeah.
Look at this. The pandemic happened, and I just went. I went full. I stopped cutting my hair for a long time, and then when I went back to the barber, they're like, "Oh, we want to try an undercut?" I'm like, "Yeah, why not keep the length? Here we go."
Yeah. So anyway, that's
University of Minnesota hat.
What now?
I'll get you a University of Minnesota hat.
I
gotta
wouldn't
get you a ShuttlePod.
I mean, this one you're wearing here. I would no sooner wear that than
honesty.
Yeah.
Dominic, you are quickly becoming an icon in the voiceover gaming world. We are huge fans of World of Warcraft. How did you find yourself moving into this area of acting?
God bless a woman called Andrea Toyas at Blizzard. Got me in to read 3 sundry parts. I think it might have been for, I forget what it was for, actually. It might have been one of the World of Warcraft. Anyway, I did these 3 parts, and this was years ago now. And she said, do you do many of these sort of things? And I was like, no, I don't actually. And frankly, I'm rather surprised. And then there was another British actor in town who shall remain nameless, whose career sort of fell off a cliff a bit for other reasons. Anyway, he did a lot of this stuff, and I brought his name up, and anyway, I was signing the paperwork, and and then this conversation ensued. Anyway, what did she say to me? I did one voice for it was like a blacksmith or something, and I did it in this like thick northern Yorkshire accent. And at some point, I was between the glass. She looked through and she went. It was right when the first season of Game of Thrones was happening. She goes, has anyone ever told you sound just like Sean Bean in Game of Thrones? And I was quick on my feet, and I went, "Oh yeah, and I'll get that a lot." And sure as shit, I was getting in the car and the phone rings, and my manager was like, "What did you just do in there?" And I'm like, "Oh, there's me belly aching about another actor getting all the voiceover jobs." He goes, "No, they love you. They love you. They want. Apparently, there's a part for Diablo 2 or something that they've had a lot of trouble casting, and they want you to go back in and do a whole thing tomorrow." So I went in, and then I got a text from Andrea saying, "And if you want to discuss anything," and then from the text I could tell I have a feeling it's the sort of Sean Bean voice you're looking for. And she went, "Oh my God, your instincts are so bang on." And sure enough, I ended up doing this. It went for months. I was in the booth the whole of that summer, I think, doing the Templar. Yeah, say that.
Is he going to get naked?
Yeah.
You never know.
There's the Templar.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. There we are.
It kind of looks like you, actually.
I know, really. I mean, you get to play parts.
You got the muscles under there.
That's the nice thing about doing these sort of things. You get to play parts that you would never, ever get cast as.
Do you prefer it?
I'm reminded of doing Beowulf in mocap suits and looking up. And there was Ray Winston, who had a belly the size of fucking Texas, just ramming out of this black mocap suit. Brendan Gleeson, whose belly was not much smaller, and his taxi door ears, and the two of them were sharing a fag on the door at the back of the studio. And I looked over and I thought to myself, "Look at those two lucky motherfuckers." One of them with a big fucking belly. One of them's playing a superhero And the other one's a superhero's best bloody mate. Yeah.
You know, this is why this show is called Raw Rant, and we need to have Dominic on here every week, please.
So you guys know he means a cigarette.
Look at
He
those
means
two
cigarette.
lucky motherfuckers. I tell you. Yeah.
Oh God, save us, Brian. What else we got?
Yeah. From Irish Lover, Jeffrey Combs as a guest on the Shuttle podcast. Yes.
Yes, he was great.
I agree with that. Also from Kenneth LaRose. Hey, Ken, nice to see you again, brother. It'll take a while to drink Canada Dry. Lots of beer and water up there. I don't even know what that means, but thanks, man.
Good joke, Ken. Good joke.
Adrian Foster, 279, and No Money G. Thanks to the entire panel. Admire you all. Whew.
Thank you, No Many.
Yes.
For giving money.
Also, one more before we go on. From Philippe Abringo for, I think it's $6, but I'm not sure. Connor and Dominic, you guys rock. Love the ShuttlePod podcast and miss Enterprise so much. You guys deserve better. All I want to say is, it's been a long, long road. Getting from there to here.
So on that note, Dominic, how do you feel about that song? That's like the most controversial thing from the entire show. Was the song. Were you a fan of it, or what was your thoughts on it? We could just do a poll.
I liked it a lot. I thought it was rather fitting. I thought the melding of the images and the song were, I didn't know that it was going to get the fandom quite so knicker twisted. No, I've always liked it. I think it's a powerful song, and I thought the images looked good. Man's first, attempts at flight, and all the way through to making it to space. I thought it was all rather lovely. And there's. Can you see there it is. There. Can you see that? Do you see the? Yeah, there it is. That was Scott Bakula's. Did it come over? Did it come across? Where is it?
Yeah.
It was yours. That was Scott Bakula's first Christmas present to us. He froze frame our credits from the credit list and framed them and gave them to us as our first Christmas present, which still hangs.
Cool. That's awesome.
In the office here. Yeah.
We're split on the song. So why don't you do a poll real quick for everybody watching? Did they like the song or not? And then we'll pretend it's anonymous, so Dominic can't get mad at anybody. So tell us the truth. We'll settle this right now for the whole fandom. Was it? I think it was a great song. I loved it.
It was a great song.
I liked it.
Anyone who says it doesn't like stuff.
I guess I don't like stuff.
Do you know the alternate version to the song?
I thought it got a lot better when there was a skip option. That's all I'm saying.
Have you ever heard the alternate version to the song?
There were alternative versions.
Well, it was done for a movie. It started out as what was the movie? The Robin Williams film, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking of another alternate version entirely. I don't know that you.
Is there a punk rock version?
There's a techno version.
No, there's my version.
Oh, what's your
version? Is there really?
Oh God! Well, I thought everyone. I was on a plane to Germany. I wrote this on a napkin.
Ooh.
And ended up singing it to Jolene Blaylock at her last convention in Germany. 15 years ago now, or maybe 20, isn't it? I'm not the best singer in the world, but it goes a bit like this. It wasn't such a long time. It was only 4 years. Not such a long time. They didn't answer all my prayers. But now we're canceled. They can kiss my ass. They can go to hell. They should have made me captain anyhow. Put me in the cat suit as well. 'Cause I've got tits and ass. Just as good as Jolene Blaylock. I've got looks and charms. Mountains higher than Connor Trinneer, books and smarts. Just as much as Dr. Flox ever had. I've got game. Yeah, I've got game. Right from the heart.
Where's my lighter at? Can we pop the lighter up?
That's fantastic.
Wow.
Yes.
That should have been the opening song.
That should
Get
have been
that man
opening,
into a
100%.
studio stat.
Oh, I love that. That's gonna play forever, Dom. That is
Yeah,
fantastic.
Somebody
that's
clip
gonna
that and
that's
put some
now the
music to
intro
it.
song of this show.
Yeah, put it to music. Get the instrumental version. There you
Because
go.
I've got tits.
What did Jolene say? What did Jolene say?
Oh, her mouth proverbially hit the
Sprayed
floor.
him with
Yeah.
mace.
And she said,
Yeah,
in your dreams, Buster.
Notice that was the last time Dominic said that she
ever did a convention.
That was our last convention. That's great.
Yeah.
You guys have
That
been
song
so
wrote
wonderful here.
it for.
It's been a pleasure. I'm now going to go for my afternoon walk. It is past time. So if you don't mind, I will excuse myself.
Thank you, Dominic. Appreciate you
What
so
a way
much.
to
Thank you,
go out.
Dominic.
Yeah.
Look
Thank
forward
you,
to all
guys.
the stuff you guys have coming up, and we're going to keep Mark on the show here with us. And if Erica, if she wants to stick around, God bless you guys. Make sure you get out to see the ShuttlePod show. Get over there, subscribe. I know you haven't because we got 100,000 of you guys, and they only have 39,000. So just everybody go on over there and hit that
please,
subscribe button.
Over
please
there.
subscribe and like.
Hit the button.
If you can find it in your hearts, and I'm the only one that's banging this drum. A monthly donation, please. $5 a month would go a long way to make sure that we can keep this thing going forever.
Let's leave you on this, Dominic. I've got a super chat from Admiral Tajiri Tiberius. I can't say a name.
Terry.
Dominic and Pedro Pascal has in common being in one episode of Buffy, but Dominic was in the right sci-fi franchise. Respect.
Nice.
That's right. You played a
That's
vampire in
lovely.
Buffy, didn't you? I think you did.
I made Buffy history. I was the first time they ever morphed someone into a vampire live on screen.
Really?
And a little bit of trivia. Jeff Kobar, who ended up guesting on Enterprise in season 3 in the Xindi arc, was the dastardly vampire that I was the watcher of in that episode. And in an idle moment, I turned away and oop, shit. They morphed me into a vampire live on screen for the first time on Buffy.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that
And then we
show.
chased around Glendale for a week
Yeah.
in the middle of the night.
Thanks again, Dominic. We're going to continue on talking Picard season 3, so don't you guys go anywhere, but make sure you check out ShuttlePod, and hopefully we'll see you again on the show. You entertain the hell out of us today,
I
sir.
look forward. Thank you, guys. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks a
All right,
lot,
Mark,
man.
John.
Great to see you.
And see you,
Talk to you in a
darling.
bit.
Ciao.
See you soon.
Bye, Dominic. Thank you so much for being on the show. Hey, wait, a couple quick super chats here. Irish Lovers asks, Galaxy Quest, did you ever watch the show? Yes, Irish Lover, and we have a documentary coming out in a couple weeks. So don't miss that. And
Hey,
someone on Twitter also asked us if we were going to be doing a physical media for the docs for Galaxy Quest and Enterprise. And we're working on it, but there's a lot of
we
legal
also
stuff
have
there.
Firefly and Stargate.
Yeah, so our
quick,
Go
real
ahead.
quick, guys, around the 56-minute mark, somebody clip that song and put some music to it, please.
Oh, we will. We got it.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
That'll be up after this. It'll be all I focus on. Just to be clear,
That's the greatest thing that I think has ever happened on this show.
we have a new member. Polaris sucks. All right, thank you, Polaris.
Thank you, Polaris.
Also, from Quest Piccolo Kaju.
Whoa,
these names are so
Kaiju.
hard. I can barely pronounce my own name. Don't miss the opportunity to become a subscriber to the ShuttlePod Patreon unless you enjoy missing out on cool things. I guess some people are like that.
Oh, yeah, Mark and Erica, can you guys tell us about your Patreon stuff?
Yeah, what do you guys give patrons?
We're actually in the middle of overhauling it. The big thing for a while, for when we first started, was just having extended episodes of the ShuttlePod show exclusively available to our Patreon members. But now we're inviting, if you're level 3 or level 4, you can just reserve. If you're in Los Angeles on a day we're shooting, you can schedule a seat to come and sit with us while we shoot an episode. We're launching another show that we do where we talk about Star Trek episodes from the entire franchise. And we're going to have our Patreon members, we're going to make it so that they can watch the watch party it with us. While we're watching it together, Dominic, myself, and Erica, our Patreon members can live stream it with us, engage with us while we're watching it. And then we're trying to do things where it's more interactive. We also we very much highlight our Patreon members in our show. We start with their fan questions each episode. We also play a game for a Patreon member. We play a trivia game, and we play it. Connor and Dominic and our guests of the week play for that member, and sometimes win for that member. But yeah, we're actually in the middle of rejiggering it right now.
I mean, it's probably going to keep
awesome.
evolving.
It's going to keep evolving.
Keep better.
Things that work.
Yeah.
Things that don't, we'll sort of move on from.
Are you
Yeah.
guys going to be doing YouTube members as well, or just the Patreon?
Right. That's what I was
We've been
gonna
having
ask
this
too.
conversation over the last month because we qualified for it. And, I've been looking into it. We try not to do too much too quickly. We try to feel things out one thing at a time. YouTube is new for us. And a big concern that we have, and Dominic kind of made a joke about it a bit ago when asking people to join Patreon. A big concern that we have as a show is we don't want our community to think that we're just pumping T-shirts down your throat. Part of starting the show was, what does this community not have that they used to have? We talk about conventions and how they've changed. They've kind of gotten corporate-like, and some people have been priced out of them, things like that. So our live event was an experiment in trying to address that. Everything we do is to try to give the community, is to participate in the community in a way that it's fun for all of us.
Have you guys
It's a
ever had
huge-
CBS or Paramount threaten you over the podcast or anything?
No.
It's a good question.
Just wait.
They
Not
did
that I know.
Enterprise dirty, so they can't be mean to them now.
Yeah, everyone threatens us, so we're used to it. You know what's funny is we had a Patreon too.
I
and,
started there, actually. Gary McCluggage gave me my first job
Oh wow!
out of film school, right there at a bar at the Sundance Film Festival. He had seen a movie that I had directed, and gave me a job. And I was working at Paramount while Enterprise was going on. That's actually, I met Connor for the first time all the way back then.
I wonder
yeah.
if I was working at Paramount the same time you were, because I was there as they were shooting the first season of Enterprise.
2001, I think, is when I started.
Yeah,
2000.
Yeah, that's when it started. 2001.
Wow.
And we should take this moment, because I know we focused on Connor and Dominic because they're the stars of the show, but you guys have your own credits going on. Mark has 11 director credits. He's got 35 producer credits and 13 acting credits. You've been around for a little while, my friend.
Acting credits.
Great actor.
You do. You got 13 acting credits. I was surprised by that.
Funny. A movie that I worked on with my buddies back in college when I was like 18 years old just played at the downtown Alamo Theater here in LA.
Oh, nice.
And Erica and I went to see it, and I forgot that I had acted in it.
Yeah,
I was in the end of the movie, and
just a baby.
just a baby boy.
I was like, you're so cute.
I used to be cute.
He's so cute.
That's cool.
You actually have a development executive credit on The Core, which is a movie I
Yes.
actually like. It's one of my little secret favorites. Can you
Terranauts,
tell us that
yeah.
story?
That was my first job after working for Carrie McCluggage. When I got hired by Carrie, I worked in his office just as a generic gopher for a couple of weeks, and then he was transitioning from his chairmanship of Paramount Television into a producing deal, and his first show was a show called Homeland Security, about the formation of Homeland Security. It would be like an FBI show or a cop show or something, and but with spies and military stuff and Delta Force and whatever. So I worked on that, and when the show didn't get picked up, it ended up being turned into a TV movie, and I was working next to David Foster's staff as they were putting the core together, and I ended up working in that office, and then I started doing development right away. And then I was there on and off for about 14 years.
Hey, Mark, let me ask you this. So, like, what is your impression of like how studios perceive podcast and YouTube, like the new media sphere? Are they still kind of like, that's kiddie stuff, or are they taking it more seriously nowadays?
The smart ones take it seriously. the smart ones take it seriously because it is the future. And there's a lot of people who, once you've worked on a $200 million movie, the idea of doing a podcast with a weekly budget of $12,000 is like child's play. But to me, it's I don't know. There's more heart, there's more fight, there's more direct interaction with a community is a lot more fun than sitting around tables with suits all the time. I think that some of them treat it the right way. Some of them think of it as just a marketing tool. I think that's fine too. Everyone has a role. I wish that. Well, whatever. It's my favorite medium at the moment. What a new.
Well, also, the business has changed so much in terms of like I've sort of been producing independent films and things like that, and wondering, do I continue? Can you, if you're making, unless you're Blumhouse and you have an output deal with Universal, how do you make a movie for less than $5 million that you can get a return to your investors on?
Yeah, I mean, shit. How do you make a lot of the movies that are getting pre-sale bought in advance these days? Or if you can't make the movie for $500,000, you're not making the movie.
Yeah, and it's tough. And it's a really weird time at the end.
Yeah, and all the streaming services have, in particular, they've had a glut on content acquisition because many of them have launched in the past few years. They all need libraries. They all need more content so they can compete with each other. So they bought so much content that they've spent so much money, and it's not really translating it from the sounds of it. And everyone's kind of paused acquisitions, especially, they're focusing on originals content, but now they're trying to focus on making blockbuster deals, household names, which, I understand, but it'll go through its cycle. The independent films will be a thing that strikes hard always. So it'll come back.
Yeah, we are lucky to get our film got up on Peacock, so we're happy to make that sale.
I actually have something I was curious about Erica's take on, and it has to do with the industry taking podcasts more seriously. It's like the Screen Actors Guild now actually has podcasting contracts for podcasters. So like if you're on a podcast, you can actually get health insurance and all the benefits through SAG nowadays. And that's just kind of seeing that shift where the industry recognizes podcasting as a real thing. And actors who do podcasts can actually get into SAG through that. I was wondering if you had any insight into that.
Sorry. I
distracted her. Sorry.
Yeah. I didn't know that, to be quite honest. I didn't know that till you just told me. So that's really, really fascinating. That's very cool. Yeah, let's get some health insurance.
Okay, Brian, what's our next one here?
Yeah.
Well, I want to. Mars D in the chat has just mentioned something that I think is 100% correct. Like the Ready Room, she said, I think these extras episodes like the Ready Room are piggybacking off of podcast success. I think she's 100% correct. And that's why I said I think that a lot of podcasts or this new media kind of material, these small budget fan interactive shows are being perceived as a market tool these days, for better or for worse.
I think it's great that they're taking it seriously because it is it's an art in itself and it should be treated like everything else, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Every time I'm watching an HBO show and I see at the very beginning, stay tuned at the end for the official podcast of Game of Thrones or Star Trek, whatever. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Why are you guys taking our gig? This is what we do.
Leave us alone. We're doing a Game of Thrones podcast.
Yeah, we're doing the same thing.
Yeah,
we got a super chat from Polaris Sucks. Please do whatever it takes to get a recent sighting of the rare and elusive Avery Brooks. Have you guys ever spoken to Captain Sisko?
I met Avery Brooks once in a jazz club. But yes, he's very elusive. He's on our wish list. Of course, it was
a jazz club, right?
Yeah, of course it was a jazz club.
And he was sipping gumbo. I'm assuming.
Did you guys know that? Did you guys know that Netflix actually has its own podcasting division? In fact, the Salty Nerd pitched a Netflix podcast a while back, and we kept asking them where can we listen to your podcast? And they're just like, we don't know. We have no idea where Netflix puts these things.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's what happens when you have so much money, and not enough people to watch where it's going. You just start handing it out to any random person. I remember seeing an official podcast on YouTube that had like 6 views over a period of a month, and I'm like, I don't know how this even. Okay, cool. Super chat from Gray. I have loved Trip Michael for 20 years. Enterprise is my favorite Stargate, Star Trek, and Stargate is amazing. Forever fan of Connor. Yes, Stargate was my. It's very hard for me to figure out which one's better for me when it comes to Star Trek and Stargate, because they're both so. I love them both so much. And Connor, I remember every time I'm watching or I'm rewatching, I go, that's Trip. That's Michael. That's the same thing. I love it. And when Origins came out for Stargate, a big reason why I watched is because Connor was playing the lead. I was like, all right, I'll take it.
Speaking of Stargate, David Hewlett, who's a friend of our podcast, he has a joke that he likes to say. He tells us, what do you call 2 actors in a room? A podcast. And him and Joe Flanagan have been trying to work out doing a podcast together, kind of like similar to what Connor and Dominic are doing, but for Stargate. And I would love to see that happen.
Everybody's going to want to do what you guys are doing. So this is what's interesting, is like you've set this foundation groundwork, especially in the YouTube community, where you can actually get access to the people that people want to talk to. So kudos to you guys for setting the pace for everybody else.
Yep. From Geet. Oh, go ahead, sir.
Oh, just gonna say thank you, like Erica did. And I would all the Star Trek or Stargate talk. Stargate universe is my second favorite show. So, one of the conversations we've been having is when we launch the show, I would love it to be a Stargate show, and because Connor was in it, let's go get some fun Stargate people and the same thing maybe.
That's an amazing idea. Yeah. When we first started our channel, we started talking. Well, we started talking about Survivor, the TV show, but then we made our first.
Don't ever admit
video.
that again.
Sorry, I'm just being honest. A long time ago, it was about something else, but then we made our first thing. We made our Stargate doc, and it took us like 2 months to make. And initially, no one watched it, but then eventually the views started coming in, and so like it sort of like sort of kicked off. Jumpstart, I think it jumpstarted our entire like style on the channel from like podcast style into produced docs. From Geet for 999, really like Enterprise, lots of Trek lore. Like when T'Pol didn't recognize an Romulan arc to Vulcan backstory. Also, read alert. Love you all. And this emoji. Good job.
That was a good episode when T'Pol, the Vulcan, was actually a Romulan. That was a good episode.
Yeah. From Mark M. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, it seems a lot of people want Enterprise to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone, just this community for a little bit of time, it's like everyone wants it back.
It's unfinished.
Cool.
Yeah, that's the problem when you don't finish a series.
Yep.
I do say, second prize is not often exciting, but I think it is better to leave your audience wanting than it is to bore them into like walking away from the show. So there is that. At least everyone wanted more. That's kind of fun. Yeah.
Okay, so speaking about the ending and walking away, from Mac M, have said it before, the clunky finale allows it all to be undone easily. Who knows how accurate the holodeck recreation was? That's true. I mean, maybe that was intentional.
I've had this conversation a lot, and my take on it is that the holodeck program that Riker was running is just a therapy program. You play the chef on the first ship to go out, and you look at how things were in the olden days to put a perspective on how, well you have it now in the future. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, good point. And to that point, that would make sense then, because from Yo Seidman, was it ever considered to allow Captain Archer to give his speech launching the Federation as opposed to just walking out? Well, if you think about it the way Mark just did, if it's a therapy program, then the user wouldn't have to hear the speech.
Yeah.
Right? because the user's the main character in that therapy program, not Captain Archer.
Well, we know that we've talked to Terry about it, and he actually said that he'd love to redo. I mean, if they gave him the ability to do it, he'd finish Enterprise, I think, in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that would be great.
From Crazy Ghost Hunters, I gotta check out your channel, man. That sounds awesome, by the way. How about a season where the NX-01 somehow travel to the future, where they experience what's to come? Just an idea. Yeah,
Like the
temporal
burn?
wars, man. Yeah, I like
That
that
explains
idea.
their age. See, that would explain their age now.
Yes, I'm telling you, if Terry gets the shot at this, if he just happens to, and it's a temporal time wars thing, I want everyone on this everyone's watching right now to remember that I suggested it.
Okay, yeah, it's all about you. Okay, come on.
I'm just saying, if it happens,
Would they refit the NX so the nacelles weren't attached anymore?
Yes, only if they go to the 30.
yeah. They couldn't be attached. No. Blasphemy.
Shouldn't even kid about that.
Yeah, it's not even funny, bro.
Don't even bring it up.
From Big Stevie, Dominic needs to go to lower decks. Yeah, that's definitely a thing.
He's hilarious. I had no idea how funny he was. I mean,
Really
he's funny a little bit on your guys' show, but he was unleashed here. That was great.
Yeah.
He was not unleashed.
Oh, really?
Oh, he wasn't.
He was behaving himself. Yeah.
We need to
Because
get
there's members content where we get more of Dominic in that fashion on Patreon, perhaps.
I mean, he almost showed us his butt, so like we got that.
Is there a Dominic Unleashed on Patreon?
Dominic Unleashed.
Dominic Unleashed. Yeah, it would probably make.
I mean, that's your Patreon, man. Just outtakes of Dominic.
That's all you gotta do.
He can do his OnlyFans account.
Yeah, Mark, Erica, what are the odds of getting Cole Meany on the show?
Ooh.
Oh,
You guys tried Cole
yeah.
Meany?
I was just talking with a producer friend of mine that I've produced a couple of projects with, who was really close friends with Cole, and we brought that working on an introduction. Yeah, I would say so. Like, we get a lot of suggestions for guests, and our guest list is, if you've been on Star Trek or worked on Star Trek, you are on our list, and we're trying to track you down. We're starting obviously with the recognizable names and the big players, obviously, because that's what will allow the show to thrive and succeed and survive. And but we all love having Julianne Christie as one of our first guests. She was only in one episode, but what a memorable episode! She impregnated Trek. How cool is that?
Right.
I did that.
Yeah, and she was such a great guest. And John Fleck came on, and
They were awesome.
he was amazing. And his stories I've never saw.
Yeah.
There's a few members of that played guest stars in the original series, like Michael Forrest, who I think just turned 90. He played Apollo in Who Mourns for Adonais, and he's still very virile and very funny. And he's friends with people like Barbara Luna, who played Marlena Moreau. What's that?
Apollo?
Yeah, he played Apollo.
Yeah.
And and he's around. Those guys are there. And Barbara Luna, who played Marlena Moreau on Mirror Mirror, the second season original series episode, they're all really good friends. And you might want to put a couple of them together, because they're hilarious when they get together. And they've been going on the convention circuit for decades.
That's an interesting idea. One of the things that we're doing now is we're launching a new show called the Episodes, where we want Star Trek episodes, and the hope is that once we sort of work out the kinks, that we can start having guests in who are relevant to those episodes.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Forrest would be a good one to start with, because he's just a very fascinating presence, and he's still very much with it, and a really great raconteur.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's awesome.
Well, I mean, he played a god.
He played a god. Yes, he did.
On Matt's point, if you did actually get Miles O'Brien on the show, you'd be legends. He is the internet's favorite character of all time.
He's my favorite Star Trek character of all time.
He's one of those characters that he's just been memed for 12 years straight. So,
according to Lower Decks, he's the most important Star Trek character in the universe.
Right. Lower Decks really knows their audience. They really do. Roger Green.
He's the blue collar guy. He reminds us all that
He is.
hard work
Yeah.
will never stop being important.
Yeah, I agree. Roger Grind says, thank you for $10. Says, watched R&B before the podcast and got the ShuttlePod a few months ago. Love them all and love when my favorite people come together. All you guys rock. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, my
Roger.
friend.
Nice.
That's nice.
Thanks, Roger.
Also from Gunslinger, I'm one of those guys while serving in Afghanistan used the show as an escape and wanted to thank the entire cast for the gift. Loved the theme also. So on that note,
hold on before you do that. Just want to add to that, Gunslinger. That's a really great comment. You're not the only one. So I was in Iraq when Enterprise was ending, and I got to tell you that final season of Enterprise got me through the 9 months I was there. And I didn't get a chance to tell Connor and Dominic this, but I'm telling you, when you're in a war zone, there is no relief. And so having Enterprise was a big deal for me. So good comment there, Gunslinger. Thank you. Go ahead, Brian.
So, and on that note, he mentioned the theme song. So I do want to talk about the two polls we have. We have a poll on each channel.
Oh, nice.
And here we go. I'm going to end the poll on both channels, and I'm going to give you guys the results. First off, out of 142 people on Popcast Prime, 67% said they loved it, and 13% said the skip option made it better. And then on Unleashed, out of 214 votes, 59% said they loved it, and the skip option made it better with 16%, and horrible was 16%. With a coming in final, the techno version was better. So the majority of people loved the theme song.
I think 100% would say that Dominic's version.
Whoa.
No,
Yes. Obviously.
I don't know if anyone else experiences this, but watching so much Star Trek, when I go back to binge watch Star Trek now, it doesn't matter what series it is. When the title sequence starts, it's been a long road comes out of my mouth. It's been a long road, but and then I walk away to get some ice cream or something because the episode's about to start, and I know who's in the episode. But am I the only one who experiences that? I want that song to be.
I don't know about other people, but I do that for Discovery because the theme song is so horrible that when I'm watching it, I walk away humming that song, and by the time I'm done with that song, I know I'm through their long, super long, ridiculously long credits. And here we go.
I just want to point something out because this is a long time Star Trek thing for me. Dan Candy in the chat says, "I've never heard Adonis pronounced like that before." This is a common misconception about this episode. When I was a kid, I thought the name of the episode was Who Mourns for Adonis.
I did too.
It's not. It's Who Mourns for Adonais.
Yes.
And Adonais is a plural word for God. And I for the longest time, that for years, I said Who Mourns for Adonis, but it's not. It's Who Mourns for Adonais.
Yeah, I thought the exact same thing, actually. That's good. I'm glad you pointed that out.
I just want to point that out because he said he'd never heard Adonis pronounced like that before. And it's funny because you don't know that. And it was for years I was corrected, and I was like, oh, it was like learning something new. And it was learning something new.
Well, Rob, while we're on you here, we got a super chat for you. R&B, you recently asked, post-Dominion War, how does a utopian society return from total war to its utopian values? Thoughts on Ezra Dax USS Aventine show exploring that ? Especially in a post-GWOT America. Thank you.
That's a great question. Well, I've often talked a lot about people have always leveled the criticism that Deep Space Nine doesn't reflect what Roddenberry's values were in terms of a utopian future. And I've always maintained that the interesting thing about Deep Space Nine, one of the many interesting things, is that it's really about how does a utopian situation, a utopian civilization, or a post-scarcity civilization hold on to its values when the onslaught of an external force bent on its destruction. How do you do that? And of course, in the episode In the Pale Moonlight, you literally have our characters, Sisko himself, condoning murder to bring in the Romulans to fight the Dominion. And, the famous end of that episode, he says, I can live with it. And then he erases his log after he admits everything. And I think that's a great question. The novels, the Star Trek novels, Ezri Dax commanding the Aventine goes into that a lot. And if you've never read Star Trek novels before, the Star Trek Litverse continued the story of the universe for 20 years after the Dominion War was over. And there's some amazing books. One of my favorite Star Trek book series, and indeed it's a great science fiction series, is David Mack's Destiny trilogy. And in the Destiny trilogy, the Borg return with 7,000 Borg cubes and decimate the Alpha Quadrant. And it's a fantastic science fiction story. And it goes into, I mean, it's not canonical, it's beta canon, but still it's pretty good. And Ezri Dax has a big part to play in that. But I would love to have seen all that. It's too bad that, we've talked a lot about Terry Matalas doing a legacy series, because he knows that, he's even said that the 25th century is the current present day of the Star Trek universe. And it would be nice to see, like, it would be really interesting to see them continue on with various, where you could do an anthology show. It's just, in the case of Star Trek, it's too expensive. So
it is expensive. I just wanted to say something that you started out responding very well to, that I like Cisco, for example, saying I can live with that. I don't think that you can defend your principles if you're dead.
Right.
So at a certain point, like a prime struggle of humanity is that very struggle. We want to build these principles and become better people in a better society and an advanced civilization, an enlightened civilization. But at a certain point, you have to, your primality, your inner kicks in when you're confronted with extermination. And I don't know. That's part of what I love about Star Trek, is because even though Gene Roddenberry's vision is that we have a paradise, the aspiration toward paradise is the journey itself. I don't know that we can ever actually get there, because there'll always be a survival event in this universe.
Well said. Yeah, no, absolutely. And even in the onslaught of when you're out in the cosmic infinitude of the universe, I mean, so much of what even the original series dealt with potential extermination events, whether it was a giant space amoeba, the Doomsday Machine, or the two Lazaruses fighting as the beginning of the Alternative Factor, which is an episode I have great affection for, even though it's a terrible episode of Star Trek. The universe winks out in the beginning of that episode, and we still persevere.
Yeah.
Right. Well said.
We got a super chat from ZM. Temporal Wars could revisit any and all Trek across all timelines, taking the best from each in a single narrative that resets the franchise back into something more coherent. Enterprise cast with other vets. Yeah, okay, I'm cool with that. I hate time travel, but every time someone mentions it, I do the same thing. I'm like, oh yeah, I want to try that out. And then I'm usually disappointed. But
time travel, fun, but I hate it. But it's fun, but I hate it.
Yeah, that's my problem. It's fun, but I hate it. But it's fun, but I hate it. Yeah.
The only one who could pull off time travel.
12 Monkeys.
Matalas. Yeah.
Yep.
He proved with that show that he knows what he's doing with the time travel stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of Terry Matalas, you guys want to talk some Picard season 3 while we're here?
Let's do it.
I know Erica's like, no, I do not.
You caught up, Erica?
I've been really enjoying Picard.
She has been. She won't let me watch episodes when I want to, because she wants to watch them.
I'm like, no, I want to watch it with you.
Yeah, which is really exciting for me.
And I was bummed when it was over the last episode, because I was like, that's it.
Yeah. Oh, and I was on my arms in the air. Holy shit.
Yeah. Explain your. Okay, so explain
what
your.
I want to explain. There's so much.
When the D comes back, just kind of give us what you were going through, because you were a longtime Star Trek fan.
Yes.
It was really emotional for some weird reason, and then all the questions like, is lighting gonna be flat and bright like on the Next Generation? Is like what? How are they going to explain this? And I love the idea that it was LaForge basically working on a classic car. It's like he'd been working on it in his garage, And you know, whatever. I think if someone pitched the idea that they brought the Enterprise D back and LaForge had been classic carring it in his garage, I would have groaned in the writer's room. But the way they managed to do it, it was great. And there's a lot of talk about nostalgia and on, you know, like I've seen videos now of Star Trek fans on their feet while their spouses are recording them, holding back the tears as the Enterprise D comes back. Just talking about it is getting me emotional. It was intense.
It was so emotional for me too.
The first time I saw it, I literally, it was involuntary. I literally had, and you know, having spent 3 years doing those documentaries for the Blu-rays, you know, we went really in depth into every aspect of the show with everyone. And to see, I even worked on the Star Trek Experience when they were making it. I was working for Landmark Entertainment when the two bridges, the Enterprise D bridges, were being built at that attraction. And my name was even on Worf's, you know, on the weapons, well, the security, call it what you want, the arch, the horseshoe. And to see them walk onto that bridge, and there's a 7-minute piece of music that bridges them walking onto the bridge to the time the Enterprise is launched. It's an incredible piece of music, and you couldn't help but get teary-eyed.
Yeah, when you see the turbo lift, like when the turbo lift and you see him coming out of it, it's like I had this weird like out of body flashback to my youth. You know, that's something about that turbo lift, because that's like the main, that's like the setting, you know, or the main shot of the bridge, right? People coming into it.
You know, I asked Terry because there's a shot on a techno crane where the camera is, you see him walking on and there's fanning out, and at the same time the techno crane is pulling back as the lights of the bridge are coming up. You know, and I asked, because it's the perfect, they figured out the perfect he said, I thought it would have taken him longer. He said it didn't take that many takes, but to get the camera to move back in perfect sync with the lighting coming up. So when the camera's pulling back between con and ops, you know, the light, it fully illuminates the bridge. And I'm like, you know, and then they're fanning out, so they're all behind. It's great. It's a great.
At this moment, we learned that they can't use the Enterprise E.
Sorry, continue talking. I was just trying to.
It's in our ear though, the audio.
Oh, is it really?
And it is.
My bad, guys. I apologize. I thought I muted.
This is the shot. You know, this shot.
Yeah.
It's a great. And I love how that Enterprise plaque was the only part of the bridge that was from the originals.
Yes.
And they said they had to like put it under lock and key every night so no one ran off with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have stole that. And I'm a pretty moral guy.
I would have taken it. Absolutely.
Yeah. You know what's funny is there's a shot right here. I'm playing it really quick so I can avoid copyright. But there's a really cool shot where Riker heads right to the right and then peeks behind the wall or whatever, and someone included that shot on Reddit, the behind the scenes shot, where it was a recreation of like where the bathroom is, but they actually built the bathroom that they never showed you on camera. They built that section of the bridge.
Oh, no kidding.
There's a side-by-side somewhere out there.
You look at like the technical manual of the ship. There's a bathroom. There's bathrooms everywhere that you've seen.
Yeah,
I would hope so.
Yeah.
There's a beautiful side-by-side on Twitter that shows both bridges, the old and the new one, and it's like, oh my god, it so looks the same.
I do like when they say, does it seem smaller to anyone else, or are we just older?
Right, yeah.
It's like, the set's a tiny bit smaller.
Yeah, Riker's like, I'm just bigger.
Yeah.
What did they call it at the beginning of the season? The fat boy? Was that the one?
Yeah.
The fat one.
The fat one.
Yeah, the fat one. Yeah, I you know what, being able to see the bridge again though in modern lighting, modern cameras and everything, you realize that the lighting can be better on the other ships, and you still get the cinematic quality. Because a lot of people were complaining about the lighting being bad on every other Starfleet ship. And I kept defending it, saying like, hey, it's modern day, you know, different tech, you know. But then I see this and it's lit up the same way, but it's still cinematic. And I'm like, well, I guess you probably could have done that way. But I understand. I do understand, but I get both sides of the picture now.
Well, you know, in order to appreciate loud, you have to have soft.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. It would have had less impact,
Right, which is another reason why we got Major Barrett back, was because like people were complaining about her not being on the ship's computer voice for the Titan, and it would have been, this moment would have been less impactful had you used Major Barrett for that moment.
True.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, we got a super chat from Andre Benson. I'm just here wondering. Oh, I'm sorry, Mark. What?
That they wanted to go like Battleship style, like my Battleship, the movie.
Yes.
So World War II, steam powered or diesel, whatever.
Diesel. Yes.
Diesel powered battleship to fight the aliens because the aliens couldn't control the technology.
Mark, people don't like that movie. I low-key love that movie.
I low-key love that movie. And
It
that's
could have
why
been.
I thought, I was
It
like,
could have been a classic.
They're going to get an old ship and like F. What if it's the Enterprise A? What if it's like what if it's the Voyager? I couldn't stand still. It was so exciting for me. And I was like, oh, it's the D. All right, well, okay.
I mean, the D makes sense, but yeah, I had the same thing where it could be any of these ships, and I'm cool with any of them, but the D makes it so special, right?
Yes.
But the other ships aren't space worthy. I'm sure they don't have their warp cores in them, and they're not ready to fly.
Sure, that makes sense. I'm just saying. No,
Well, we've seen the other
about
ones.
the battleship could have been a classic, Robert.
That movie, I thought at the end of the day, that at the end of Battleship, it would have been a great, it was a misunderstanding that led to this war.
Mm-hmm.
And that if they had made it a way where there would be a ceasefire, and at the end there was peace, and the aliens and we could have shook hands, because it was a misunderstanding that kind of led to the war. And I always thought, man, you could have gone Contact style or something and made it a nice ending.
Yeah, but
it was also Rihanna's best performance in a movie.
I felt okay with us going after them when they punched down. Clearly they have way more better technology, and there's a misunderstanding, so they're gonna go all rage. And lastly, about this movie, I'm sorry, but the moment with the guy with the no legs is pushing the car, I wanted to cry for him. It was like such a powerful moment for me, because I know a guy in the military who has no legs. I'm like, I need to show this movie to him right now.
Yeah, make him feel better about it. Good one.
Andre Benson for $5. I was just wondering how an outdated Enterprise D is going up against the massive updated fleet. The Enterprise F can just look at the D and destroy it. Yeah, well, we're going to find out this week.
Well, the narrative saying, God beats man boring, man beats God exciting.
Right.
So you have to make them the underdog if the victory is going to be exciting.
That's
right.
You really have to earn it, and you have to make that journey go from the distance between start and success or complete finish, whatever, as long as you can and as difficult as possible. So I love it.
And doing it in the D is just
well. And if you know that if you know Star Trek, then you know that the D is not going to come in and just shoot everybody up, and that's going to win the day. It's going to be something a lot more technical and interesting than just a gun, an firefight.
Right.
Yeah,
like
and it's a firefight they can't win too. I mean, it's pointed
they
out.
have to outthink them. That's also one of the things about Star Trek is they're not just they don't just have a club. They have to outthink their adversaries all the time. You can't just kill everything you run.
Right. It's not brute force.
Does Earth have an army of space flowers to defend it though?
That was season 1.
Erica has an and she has to say goodbye.
Okay.
4 o'clock.
Bye, Erica. We're wrapping up here soon.
Chatting with you guys, and even as a new Star Trek fan, that scene in the last episode of Picard was really touching, even for me.
Awesome.
So,
Erica, can I ask you a question before you leave?
I'm not sure, but I really appreciate it. Yes, go ahead.
Have you seen the entire 4 seasons of Enterprise already?
Well, that's a really good question. We watched a lot of Enterprise, but I don't think we watched it like consecutively. It just so I think I've seen almost every episode, but I can't say that I definitely did. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just when we were prepping for the show, it was always on TV. It's just I'd fall asleep to it, wake up to it.
Yeah, I hear you. I binge watched it several times, and I'm sure I've missed episodes. So
really, okay.
Yeah. Because I fall asleep to it. I fall asleep to Trip getting pregnant. It's every
That make for
time
weird
it's that
dreams.
episode.
You and Dominic.
Yeah, and then I have weird dreams about Dominic. It's weird. It's weird.
What is your favorite Star Trek, Brian?
What's that?
What's your favorite Star Trek show?
Well, actually, everyone's gonna hate me if I answer that correctly.
You need to answer it correctly.
But I have to answer it correctly. I'm honest to a fault. Here's the deal. If I had to rank my favorite Star Treks, it would be, and this is real close. It's close, guys. But it would be Voyager, TNG, Enterprise, TOS, DS9. And I'm not including Picard season 3 in this right now. I'm not including any of the new shows, but that would be, and now DS9 is by far better than anything ever new created except for Picard season 3. But it's at the bottom of my list because they're not in a ship. It's not as episodic.
Oh my God, we just lost 200 viewers.
And the reason I liked Enterprise and TNG similarly was because they had a similar premise. I like episodic content, and I like the idea of like Enterprise did two things for me. It gave me a little bit of that Voyager feel where they're out there on their own, and a little bit of that TNG feel where it's like this episodic sort of new frontiers, new things to do every week.
You're not being honest though. The only reason you like Voyager is because of Tuvix. You have to just be upfront about it.
Yeah. You know what? I'll be upfront. Yes, I hated Voyager until they introduced Tuvix, and then it became my favorite immediately. And I love the episode Threshold where they become giant salamanders. Yep. I don't know why everyone hates
best episode of Voyager ever. Yeah,
best episode of TV ever. Yes, you cannot get better than that. And the fact that they followed up quickly by killing Tuvix, that's the best TV show ever made.
All right, well said.
Your favorite?
No, but honestly, I do love Voyager, Enterprise, and TNG. Those are my favorite three.
Very cool.
Well, thanks for coming on, Erica. Appreciate it. Mark, you stick around a little longer. Did a little more Picard season 3.
Thank you guys. If you see me,
thanks, Erica.
We'll see you on the next one.
All right, so I'm almost positive that I lost us a lot of viewers right now.
Someone said, and I quote, "You sicken me, sir."
Look, I'm going to be honest here. DS9, I like DS9, but I don't like it as much as everyone else does.
There you go. It's all good. It's just a little bit less flavor of good.
Yeah, it's not as episodic. They're on a ship, and there's certain characters that drove me absolutely insane that I couldn't handle. And to be fair, the first season of Voyager was not very good. The first season of Enterprise,
the first season of Voyager is not bad.
It's not bad, but it's not good either.
I would say there's an argument to be made that the first season of Voyager is the best first season of any Berman era Trek. I mean,
well, if they get rid of the Kazon, they're okay.
You have to get rid of the Kazon though. If you skip every scene with stupid alien Kazon.
Well, yeah, I mean they were the problem with Voyager was always they never embraced their premise. They should have been like, you know, what Connery says in Hunt for Red October, when Cortez was in the New World, he burned his ships, and the idea that if the Voyager resolved itself to like, we're not getting home, we're going to build a Federation beachhead, and it became a world building show. And then the idea that they gave us the Kazon and the Phage and all that, it just wasn't. It would have been much more interesting if there were the worlds that they found on the Delta Quadrant were more interesting.
Can I ask you a question, Rob?
Yes.
Let me ask the whole panel.
No?
In the whole panel, in your head canon, how do the Kazon fly ships? if they can't figure out how to get water?
Well, no, look, all of these are very good questions to ask. And I think that was the real problem. The real problem with modern Star Trek is the people that were making Star Trek did not have enough of a working knowledge of science fiction as a genre, as a literary genre. And you needed somebody to, like, it's amazing to me, just like I was saying this the other day, if you're studying to be a philosopher, you have to read the great foundational philosophy texts, the last 2,000 years of foundational philosophy, the great canon of philosophical works. You have to have a working knowledge of that if you're going to become a philosopher. Why people embark on making science fiction television shows without a rudimentary understanding of the great canon of literary science fiction works drives me insane. And then you get a show like Star Trek Discovery, where clearly there's not even a rudimentary understanding of things like, what would the interior of a starship look like? You know, when you're watching a turbo lift in this empty space on a track with gigantic open areas in it, I'm like, okay, how does this even get by the producers? And
Right.
I'm looking
The
at
art
this
department.
Right. How does this happen?
They need a nerd department, is what they need.
They need what?
They need a nerd department.
Well,
A
yeah,
nerd department. Yes.
Well, I mean, and the thing about that, they
need a nerd herd.
But the thing is, they also need people that are writing, like, if you listen to the dialogue on, like, Discovery, and I don't mean to just bag on Discovery, but it's generic relationship dialogue. Whenever somebody's having a conversation about how I feel or how they feel, it sounds like it's from any TV show.
Right.
Yeah, even the
any
ship
TV
sounds like
show
a
about
character from the
anything.
CW.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
and it's
at
really,
the end of the day, it's just, Robert, you have to be hired as the consultant on every Star Trek
Clearly.
show until you
Well,
die.
I don't know if I would be. I would drive the writers crazy, and they would fire me after day one.
Right.
I think I would
But-
be. I'd be like what happened to Walter Mosley when he tried to work on the show for.
No,
like, a day.
imagine if Robert was working on the season 3 of Discovery with the Burn, and they go, okay, here's the idea.
Well, I mean,
here's the idea. We're gonna burn on the dilithium, and no one can use the FTL. He's gonna be like, well, you know what? Actually, even if dilithium is broken, you can, regenerate it, as seen in Star Trek 3, the Voyage Home. And even then, you would just go on for like 4 hours about how you don't even need to.
No, because I would at least know how to comport myself in that. But here's the funny thing: of all the fictional lands, worlds, universes that have ever existed, there is more reference material on Star Trek than any other, even more so than Star Wars, only because Star Trek predated Star Wars. And if you want to find out, but not just Memory Alpha online, but any Mr. Scott's Guide to the Enterprise, blueprints of this, find out whatever you want. And when you see these basic mistakes being made, like the configuration of the internal configuration of it, I mean, you've got cutaway drawings of starships that you can look at. You can just call them up online and look at them. And the very basic things that make the universe believable,
Right,
is all available to you.
Right,
And
right.
When you're not
Everything's-
availing yourself of this stuff, just basic stuff, it's really frustrating. Like a semblance of military decorum.
Right,
I
just
mean,
basic stuff.
Star Trek is call it the Space Navy, call it what you will.
That's what it is. It's the military.
What are some of the things that you like, Rob, about Picard season 3 and the focus as far as, like, a lot of people are saying, oh, the member berries, but as we've explained before, it's more about
People don't
taking
even
the
know what that
nostalgia.
means anymore.
Well,
The idea of people think that just because there's something that's appeared before, it's a member berry is something that's like in the background.
Mhm.
It's like hanging a Christmas ornament or somewhere and go, oh yeah. But the thing is,
I remember.
This is a show that's dealing with people and their own legacies. And the thing that I love about Picard season 3, get rid of the plot. Get rid of all the nitpicky, get rid of all that stuff. The fact that you're dealing with a character like Riker, who's dealt with the death of his son. And when he explains that there was a great, darkness when he watched his son being lowered into the ground, all he felt was darkness.
Right.
You know, and he'd lost his way, and he had to leave his wife and daughter. He had to, because he couldn't be around them anymore. They couldn't stand to be around him. This is real stuff. Anybody who's lost a child or knows anyone that's lost a child. And for me, what I love about this season is it's all the relationships, Jordy and his two daughters. You know, Dr. Crusher, Doctors Without Borders, when she says, you know, I lost my parents, I lost my husband, I lost my son to space. And I wanted to keep Jack with me.
Mm-hmm.
These are things about our characters that we've never heard before. We didn't know them before. They're adding to our understanding of these classic characters. And originally, if you look at TNG, 25% of the episodes are good to great. 75% of the episodes are not so much. And I do too. But the characters were written as archetypes. They had to be the same. Occasionally you get a family where you go back to Chateau Picard, or you'd get Tapestry where you'd learn something about, but nobody was changing or growing. And the characters in Star Trek Picard season 3 feel like more like real people than those characters have ever been portrayed before. The actors are doing a better job. They know those characters. It feels more genuine. Now, is it essentially a greatest hits? You could say it's a greatest hits Star Trek plot. But if you really think about it, everything that they're dealing with is legacy stuff that is sort of, if you're a person and you get older in life, like Picard still held Ro Laren's actions against her 30 years later. So when you see him have that conversation with her and you hear what she has to say to him, I'm like, this is a wonderful. So I thought it was a wonderfully written and beautifully acted and well-directed coming together of these two characters. And they finally got over this thing that happened 30 years ago. It was earned.
Right.
And when you're seeing this, that's why I love Picard season 3 so much. And yeah, you've got a big techno thriller plot, but to me, it's all about characters and story. And, you know, in a way, we've got Jack Crusher is the first born as he was born assimilated, or the potential to be assimilated through his genetics. Again, this backs up. What does it mean when parents pass something down to their children, whether they give it to them through their teachings, or you get it, the genetic disposition. And when they brought it up early, this is one of the things that people are completely missing about this show. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the hair. When did it go? They set up the idea. Of this genetics thing, and then they think it's Aromatic syndrome, and then you find out you were altered. We didn't even know this, and you were all so. These things are set up and paid off throughout the whole course of the series, but it's not what people are necessarily looking for. And there's been a lot of people that dislike this season, and I don't begrudge anybody their opinions. People don't have to love what I love. But I think that there's a lot of people that are missing out on some of the really rich storytelling that's going on in this season of Picard, because they've bitten off, they're diving into Star Trek lore in a huge way. And some of it does it jibe? And they're stuck, they're saddled with Picard seasons 1 and 2. So they have to deal with all of that. And then there's Picard season 3. And then you wonder, what universe is this in? What's happening? Like Girardi's Borg, but that was from an alternate universe that Q put them in the first place. So did any of that even happen?
No.
You know, that's what I would say. Nothing in Star Trek Picard season 2 actually happened. None of it. In which case, and if you look at it that way, you could say that the universe, there are things that happened like in Star Trek Picard season 1, so they have to go with them. And then you're dealing with doing a sequel to the Next Generation. So it's a very weird thing. And I'm a canonista. I'm a canon pornographer. Give me canon or give me death.
I have a question for Mark real quick. Speaking of, producing a series and stuff like that, Mark, I'm a podcast producer. We just opened up our own studio here in Las Vegas. for the Salty Nerd podcast. And one of the things I really liked about the ShuttlePod show is seeing how it kind of evolved from the beginning, where it's just like the guys sitting around a table and you got some stuff in the background. Now, like, you guys are in like a full studio. You got like, like a full camera setup with the mics. I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how the podcast has evolved for you guys and how you kind of ramped up, your production value and where you see the show going in the future.
Well, first off, we had no support. We just did it all ourselves. We still do it all ourselves. We've got no backers, no investors, anything. Now, obviously, we have Patreon and a community that's been building around us that is contributing financially to the maintenance of our show. And a lot of our new gear, I'd say half of the gear that we have now has come from fans of the show to help us grow. So for us, it's a passion project. I left my job. This is my full-time job. I've invested everything I have into this.
I know what that's like.
So yeah, right. So it's like you start, and if you want to get it right, you just have you have to just do it. If you're going to learn how it's done, you have to just do it. There's only so much planning and minging and wringing your hands about whether or not you're going to make a mistake. You just have to do it, and then let it evolve. Learn your lessons and keep going. When we started it out, it was kind of just an experiment. Are we going to even have fun doing this? Will we still get along as friends if we do this? Do we actually have anything interesting to say on camera? We just started with the resources we had at the time, which was in a conference room in an office that I was working in. And we did an assessment. We looked at, we started dabbling and starting a Patreon community. We were dabbling and learning YouTube. We were, trying to figure out how this can support itself financially. Is that even possible? And we took a hiatus over the summer and made a lot of big decisions. And I said that I would be willing to be all in if they would keep showing up and keep doing it, that I would make it my 24-hour-a-day job and build it as successfully as it can be. So that's why you've seen such an uptick in changes in our show since November, is because we've been committed to making this a long-term enterprise, for lack of a better word. Like we want this to succeed. We are having so much fun doing it. The guys are having so much fun talking to their friends in ways that they learn so much more about these people that they've known for 20 years in an hour-long conversation on our show than they do in 20 years of being at conventions together. So there's that part of it. And then there's the awesome fans who do things like turn our plant into a mascot and make t-shirts out of it. And when we decided we were going to throw a live event, a bunch of our Discord members self-organized and said, "You clearly need help. We're going to help you." It's been a remarkable experience.
Isn't that great when your community gets your back like that?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. I never had any idea what this community was like before we started making this show.
It's awesome. They're great. Fantastic. So let's get your take, Mark, on Picard Season 3. I'm glad you stuck around with us to talk about it. I know you are a long-time Star Trek fan, just like the rest of us nerds. So how are your feelings about it?
I love it. It's fun. I'm having so much fun. There's the nostalgia element, obviously, but it's also really good storytelling. I think Terry Matalas has done something incredible. I think that he's the first person who managed to bridge that divide between old Trek and new Trek. He's doing new Trek, but in a way that makes the rest of us come to check it out and be excited about it. I'm one of the people who thinks all Trek is good Trek. I have no qualms. I love Discovery. I love Picard, even the disappointing aspects of seasons 1 and 2. But I love it. I love Strange New Worlds is amazing. I love Lower Decks. I love Prodigy. I love all of it. But for me, I grew up on the Next Generation and the original series. I watched it in my basement in northern Minnesota growing up. That was the first time I ever cried at a television, was when Worf got smashed by that container and everyone thought he died.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
Spoiler alert: Worf's not dead.
He lives. He lives. Yeah.
Yeah. So you must have some special meaning for you to. I mean, I don't know. It sounds like you're the same as some of us. When the TNG crew, everybody came back for Picard season 3, and you start learning how these characters have developed over the last 20 years, and you see these changes. Did you feel yourself reflecting in their changes, like with your life experience and now their life experience, almost like you grew up with them, right?
Yeah. I was so idealistic in 1987, and now I'm a grown man. I'm a father. I've got the baggage of life. And so, yes, of course, it's like, that's why earlier we were talking about the achievement of paradise. I don't think is possible, but the aspiration to achieve paradise is in fact a journey, a worthy journey all of its own, that, none of us can be or will ever be perfect, but trying our best to be the best that we can be is in itself an important journey. And shows like Star Trek inspire us to know, when it's done well and right, it inspires us to know that we're not alone. We all make mistakes, and the best thing you can do is try to learn from it and improve on it. And there's a lot of backlash about Beverly Crusher not telling Picard that he had a son. And like, even on our show, when Gates was a guest on our show, we had a lot of people in our comment section kind of pooping on that. And it's like, these are human beings, and she's got reasonable reasons to want to protect her son from, and like you just mentioned, I've lost my parents, I lost my husband, I lost my son to the stars. I wanted to keep him safe. And your Picard, his father, you're not exactly awesome. There's someone trying to keep the son safe, there's a meme I saw this morning. It was Todd Stashwick was driving away on the back of a garbage truck, and Picard was chasing after the garbage truck with a big bucket of trash, and the trash was everywhere. And it made me laugh.
It's funny.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
What you just said though, what's really interesting is I've never seen such polarization over a show as there is with Star Trek Picard, at least judging by my own social media feeds.
Yeah.
And I think, like what you just said, a lot of people, those concerns of like Beverly's are not typically part of Star Trek lore or Star Trek characters. And so there's a lot of very real world concerns, real human concerns that these characters are having that have never really been dealt with in this particular way within Star Trek before.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people that are used to seeing something different are not responding to those things the way other people are. And it's kind of a litmus test as to what it is. What is it about Star Trek that you like? And which has always been the case with Star Trek. Some people see it as a funny, campy show. It's been annoying to me growing up as a lifelong Star Trek fan. I started watching the original series when I was 5. To go from, I took it very seriously, the original Star Trek, but then moving up to where we are now in like the 90s and the 2000s, Star Trek, the original series was a camp fest. Nobody took it seriously.
We talked about this in our new show, the episodes. We talk about exactly that.
It was incredibly frustrating because when you grow up with the concordance and the technical manuals and you're reading Star Trek novels, the Star Trek novelists always tried to make the universe, and this is pre-Next Generation, very real. And they're writing these books as if the universe was a very real place and everything was taken seriously. And after the advent of Next Generation, it started to change. because as we moved further and further away from the 1960s, even the color palette, the reason Star Trek looks the way it looks is because they wanted to sell color TVs, and it was a mandate to NBC to make the show as colorful as possible. Like, oh, okay, we'll give you color coded the who you are on the ship. You got command gold, science is blue, support services red. I mean, whatever it was, but looking back at it now, people look at it and go, that's kind of goofy.
I don't know. I feel like it's a part of it.
That's exactly the kind of shit we're talking about in our new series, the episodes is contextualizing Star Trek, what it meant then, why it was done the way it was done then, and original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, all the way to now the new series. What is Star Trek? What did it mean to society, to us, to fans of the show then, now? Those are the exact kind of things that we're really excited to be spending a lot of time talking about. It sounds like you're going to have to come talk to us.
Oh, well,
Speaking of Mark, we have a super chat from Michael Strathmore. Sorry, I jump in.
Okay.
Mark, love the pod. If I may, you're sitting on another pot of gold. Watching the franchise with Erica, her first reactions would do phenomenally well.
Yeah, that's 100% what we're doing.
All right. You guys heard it here first.
Yeah, we're excited to do it. We've got a little roadmap of Erica's Star Trek track.
Yes.
We're going to be checking off all the boxes. I don't know where you went there.
Thanks to our fan Tim Gotopka.
Yeah, sent it to us.
Nice.
Super chat from Christopher Mays. Curious if Matt Kadish's views of episode 9 have rehabilitated after he bravely took on the drinker Saturday morning.
Yeah, I think we need to.
I missed that. Can I see that?
Yeah.
Where's that?
So Matt had a bad experience with episode 9. I think what happened was, and I'll let Matt explain here in a second. I think when Shaw died, something inside of Matt snapped. And he just lost his mind for the rest of the show. And I understand, because Shaw was a beloved character. And I'll be honest with you, after talking to all of the creators, the people who made the show, I would willing to bet that they would say, if they knew how popular he was going to be, they may not have killed him. But Matt, tell us about your experience so we can share it with everybody.
And how did it feel getting just mobbed by 4 other people on the panel that were completely
and all the
opposite.
people in chat and all the people
and all the people in chat and on Twitter.
Yeah,
literally you against the storm.
What was it like, Matt? Tell us.
And where on the doll did Terry Metalis touch you?
He touched me the same place that Dominic showed us earlier in the stream. So like I made a video detailing everything I thought was wrong with the episode. It boils down to this. It's like I had the big Member Berry reunion moment ruined for me by the rest of the episode, because everything in that episode was so terrible that by the time I got to the great ending, I couldn't have that moment where I almost cried. I wanted to have that, but it was denied it to me. And I go through all my...
I know you say the rest of the episode. What specifically did for you? I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, I made an entire video detailing in great detail everything that I had a problem with on our channel. And then I invited the Critical Drinker, Brian, and my co-host, Matt Vader, onto a live stream where we went through my points bit by bit and gave them a chance to rebut me. And they all failed miserably.
That's not true.
I'm still not happy with it. Like, you
Mark,
know, like
he's lying to your face right now.
To me, it just marked
in his mind.
It marked the end of the idea that Star Trek could be redeemed for me. So like I still think that we had 8 great episodes of Star Trek and Picard season 3, but right now I'm just like, I don't think Star Trek's ever going to return from like the downturn that it has suffered in the modern era. So like that was just my take on it. And yeah, we had a fun stream though. It was fun.
Can I tell you one thing he said, Mark? I'll let you refute this right now. He said that the Enterprise D moment wasn't earned.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, you did.
No, I didn't. I never
you said it came out of left field.
No, I didn't say that. Watch my video. Okay. I tell you exactly the issues I had. None of them had to do with the Enterprise D.
He talks a lot, but he says very little in his video. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Well, I love you,
didn't
Matt.
watch.
I love
Yeah.
you. We can disagree and so
Yeah, we don't want to beat up on him too bad here because everybody's entitled to their own opinion. This is what I love about Star Trek. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions, whether it's right or wrong. And by the way, Matt and I argued for an hour before you guys did that stream over it as well.
I wanted to watch that.
Yeah, well, that was actually a good discussion. But we love you, Matt, even if you don't love us. But I think when episode 10 comes out, you might have a little bit of a something may change inside your heart. So,
my biggest issue with episode 9 leading up to the ending was just the poor writing of the episode. There were a lot of like creative and story flaws.
I tried, Terry. I tried.
Terry, love you to death. Love your team, but that episode was.
I don't think I agree with you, Matt. You and I are just getting.
Oh, you're not alone. You're not alone, man.
The wrong way.
But watch my video though. Watch my video and then tell me what you think.
Oh, I look forward to it. Yeah, I have to find it.
You're not alone because everyone else also disagrees with Matt.
Healthynerdvideo.com. Right up there.
I think that they took an old idea and like I saw, okay, it was my guess. That's what I guessed was happening. I did up to episode 9 that's what episode 9 would be, and but they managed to do it in such a unique, unexpected way that there's that old saying in Hollywood, give me the same but different. And they managed to nail it. I was standing the fuck up with my arm in the air when the board came down.
I wish I could have had that experience, man.
The transporters, when they turned 20-year-old into a Borg, I was like, fuck me, we're screwed. We meaning, us as Federation members. So excited by it. It was fresh and new and exciting. I don't know. And I didn't think there was much in the way of bad writing. I think that, the telling a complicated story with not a lot of time, and they're trying to give attention to all these important details without having 20 more episodes to do it. So
that is the shame, isn't it? Wish we had more episodes.
We got a super chat from Astro Nerd Boy who pretty much single-handedly finances the studio over there at Salty Nerd. He says, we still love Matt, even if he's totally wrong on a lonely island.
We love you, Matt.
I had to read it.
I'll watch your video and maybe put together an indefensive video.
There you go.
Yeah, I like that.
We got a super chat from Daniel Altamirano. Ooh, did I say that right? Jesus.
Altamirano. Good.
Right. Look at me. Jack going to the Borg and basically surrendering was stupid. And he's now responsible for the death of thousands. How is he redeemable at all? I'll tell you
that
this.
choice.
What's that, Mark?
I said, I don't think he actually was capable of making that choice.
Yeah.
He's willing to control himself and has been throughout the whole season.
I think you need to watch the last episode, and your answers will be. You'll see how he's redeemable.
Also, I mean, he. Well, I don't want to say what, but when you think about fathers and sons and legacy and everything, Jack was born to do one thing. He just didn't know it, and neither did Beverly or Jean-Luc. Somebody knew what he was born to do, though. Somebody was playing the long game.
So maybe he's an unknowing accomplice. Is that what you're saying? Something to that. No,
I'm saying that sometimes people don't know what their destinies are. And if you really think about like, I don't want to say I can't say anything, but the idea that look, if you think about like the Borg, and you have somebody said to me the other day, well, why didn't if you could assimilate people by having them naturally born with altered Borg DNA, why aren't the Borg doing that? And I'm like, why would they? The Borg don't see biomechan. I mean, the Borg drones are just tools for them. They're not thinking that like we're going to start some breeding program. There's nothing that would make them do something like that. They don't think in that way. Right. Whereas
a drone is just that, a drone, and each drone fills a role, and that role requires certain tools.
Yeah, that's that's the thing. I mean, I think that what's really interesting to me is the Borg belonged to TNG. They were co-opted by Voyager and Enterprise to a certain extent. But the Borg, the whole story of the Borg is intertwined with the story of Jean-Luc Picard.
Right.
And
I go further and say while I love the actresses who have played the Borg Queen, all of them, they've all been great. I think that the introduction of the Borg Queen conceptually took away from just horrifying they were as an enemy.
I agree with you 100%. If you go back and you watch Q Who, the introduction of the Borg in the second season,
the Borg.
They made a mistake. I mean, to a certain extent, you could even say that Michael Piller made the mistake by because the Borg Queen is just a derivation of what they did with Locutus. Like they had to humanize. But the thing is, the Borg should never have been humanized.
Yeah,
they're a plague of locusts.
I don't want to know the Borg's motivation or hear their rationalized argument in trying to convince an individual character to do something. Like the Borg should just be overwhelming, omnipresent, and unstoppable. Like that's what makes them so goddamn scary.
And that's how they were originally conceived.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Here we got a super chat from Geet. What does Robert Meyer Burnett think about the Borg running a stealth plot more like Romulans would, and the drones actually talking though? Yeah. Also, rest in peace. # Star Trek Daddy.
Meaning Captain Shaw. Yes.
Captain Shaw. Well, I mean, I think that once you've established there is a Borg Queen that can now do things, plot. I mean, what I think is really interesting is you basically have two very pissed off women, Vadic and the Borg Queen, that both had beef with the Federation. What was done to the Borg Queen at the end of Voyager, and what the Federation did to the Changelings to radicalize this group of people. I think in a way it's two girl bosses wanting revenge for being wronged. And if you look at it that way, I kind of am like, that's interesting to me. That you have these two characters that and in a way the same thing was done to each one of them. The Federation violated their own utopian principles, compromised their beliefs to do horrible things to other species. And that to me is fascinating. And I mean, they don't really get into it that much, but if you think about it, this was the Borg. We don't know how Vadic and the Borg Queen hooked up, but the Borg Queen maybe was in a situation where someone reached out to someone else for whatever reason and said, "Yo, I need help. I have this idea. If you help me infiltrate Starfleet, and I got this thing we're going to do with the transporters, and I need you to, I need this." And so one person needed the other person to help out to facilitate this, and the other person said, "If you want me to do that, I'm happy to help." And you basically had two factions, a la a Tom Clancy story, teaming up to get some payback. And in a way, it's kind of like Executive Orders, the Jack Ryan book, Executive Orders.
Well, there's also an element of, wouldn't you say there's an element of, so Vadic has a fear. Now, Terry did let us know via Twitter that the hand that talks is the Borg Queen. Yeah. So he let us know that, because I think it was not clear yet that was the case. But so Vadic was fearful of the Borg Queen. So do you think there's another element there besides working together? Do you think the Borg Queen is a threat to Vadic in some way in those changelings?
I assume the Borg want to, and I'm just not going to say the Borg Queen because I don't care. I'm going to say the Borg want to assimilate the changelings, to have that biological and technological distinctiveness be added to their own.
Oh, you think the Borg would love to have access to the Great Link?
Yeah, so I think that might be the deal made in hell is They are, and they said they're going to live in pain forever. Vadic said that they're going to live in, her and her compatriots are going to live in pain for a chance to get back at the solids that did this to their people.
Freaking solids.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's I find all that like, fascinating. And while the show still focuses on our main characters, there's a lot of really interesting, I mean, the radicalization of American foreign policy, especially in the Middle East, we do not have a great track record. We brought back the Shah of Iran and deposed a democratically held election to reinstate the Shah. If you look at the American legacy of what we've done in the Middle East and how many people have been radicalized because of our policies, it's a perfect, I mean, from a Star Trekian standpoint, Vadic and her changelings are a perfect metaphor for today. If this was the 1960s, you couldn't come out and say that, but in a it's like a private little war in season 2 of the original series. You've got the villagers who are being armed by the Klingons. The hill people, Tyree and his people, are going to be armed by the Federation. And it was a total allegory for Vietnam. You could never put this on a TV show in the 60s because of network standards and practices. But if it's in Star Trek and it's up in space, then we're not talking about Vietnam. This is not about Indochina. Right. This is a show in space. Yeah. Well, that's kind of what that's one of the things I really liked about the radicalization of this group of this faction of changelings, because we did it. The Federation created Vadic and sent her. And while it's even further, like if this was a 20 episode show instead of 10, you could probably go into that and deal with the fact that, okay, when this was done, the Federation is faced with an extinction level threat. I mean, when you have the Breen and you have the Cardassians and the Dominion teaming up against, I mean, it was an existential war that they were fighting. The Dominion War was literally an existential war. They had to resort to horrible measures in order to win, because they were facing the destruction of the Alpha Quadrant. And do you allow that to happen? And even a utopian civilization in war, you have to revert to extreme measures. And poisoning. And look, if you really think about it, the Borg have done to us what we were going to do to them in Borg. In the 5th season, what Picard could have infected the Borg with Hugh and send Hugh back, and they decided not to. Right. Yeah. So what the Borg have done through all of this planning with the changelings is they basically did to us what we were going to do to them.
I actually disagree with their genocide concerns when it comes to Borg, because stopping the Borg will stop trillions of other lives from being ended at their hands. And this goes back to, you can't defend your principles if you're dead.
Yep. Well, but remember, the Borg don't kill anybody.
Yes, they just take away their freedom and independence. Yeah,
right. Which might as well be death. From Christopher Mays,
we've got two major characters in Star Trek, Picard and 7 of 9, that are reclaimed from the Borg. So the idea that
Hugh used to be.
Well, yeah. I mean, and the way that, like, one of the things I hated about Picard season 1 was they killed how many thousands of people did they kill when those drones were thrown out into, even though they can live in the vacuum of space or whatever.
I hated it so much. Ugh.
I hated it.
Ugh. Stop. Wait. Bring it up, Rob.
I'm sorry.
Christopher Mays. I really like RMB's note on the anger of Vadic and the Borg Queen. We never saw the consequences of the Federation violating its morality. Picard season 3 places these consequences front and center. You reap what you sow. Truth.
And by the way, that's a true story in terms of fathers and daughters, mothers and sons, and all of that is all of these themes are intertwined with what's going on in this season of Picard.
This show's a whole lot deeper than people really appreciate, and I think we're going to look back on it and go, I mean, as great as everybody's loving it right now, I think we're going to look back on it in a little bit and go, wow, this show was so much more than we thought it was. And they're doing that with 12 Monkeys now. So what's that?
I mean, or less, because, it's going to be really interesting. What I love is that I haven't heard people talking about Star Trek like this in
Oh my God.
in a long time.
100%.
Right.
I was just going to say that. I love the
Pro or
excitement
con.
of Thursdays, and I love that I have to hide my goddamn phone because I can't stop getting spoiled. I'm just being around technology. Some of it still gets to me. It's really annoying.
Mark, if you want, I can spoil you right now. You don't even wait till Thursday.
Don't do that.
Super chat from Mickey Lito. We'll watch Matt's video. I found episode 9 problematic. Look at you have a supporter, Matt.
You got supporters, Matt.
I
You
have
have a
more than you
supporter.
know. They're like the changelings. They're out there
More than
hiding,
you know.
waiting to strike.
From Good Tea Nice House. Oh, Matt. In Trek, people live and people die. If you can't handle it, maybe Alf is your brand of sci-fi.
I love Alf. I
Wow.
watch Alf all day long, man.
Elf
It's
is
a great show.
sci-fi.
By the way,
I love
the
Alf and I hate
WGA
cats.
members did vote to authorize a strike.
What happened?
Wow, good.
Gonna
If
see an
there's no
uptick in
deal by May
podcasts soon.
1st.
Support WGA.
Oh, the strike's happening. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of podcasts coming out pretty soon.
Yep, a lot of podcasts.
We'll
All
take
right,
you guys on there.
Captures. Yeah.
From Andre Benson, the score. When the D left the old space dog, never heard the Jerry Goldsmith TNG TMP themes sound so heroic and triumphant.
The
Had
whole
a Superman feel to it. Yep.
The whole sport of the season has been so awesome.
Yes,
Really.
and to that note, I want to brag here.
Franchise. Oh, it's so great.
I should say my wife managed to get me the season 3 vinyl soundtrack pre-order.
Oh,
So
nice.
sometime in May, I'm going to get it. And after I listen to it, I might auction it off to a member. I might.
Ooh, okay. No, that's fantastic. Also, what did you guys think about Picard's engage? It was the most powerful engage, I think, since TNG, the way he delivered it. I mean, I think he in the moment probably was also, it just felt so strong. It was like having, Picard when he was younger back again.
He probably rehearsed it.
Yeah.
Been walking around for weeks once he got the script, like engage.
Yeah.
Well,
Because
you know
he
what?
said it in season 1 and 2, but yeah.
That was one of my criticisms of Picard, of season 2 of Picard. I felt like, a lot of you guys have been on set, right? You have multiple takes to choose from when you're editing, right?
Yes.
Most of the time, you'll have the actors do multiple tapes, engage, whatever, right?
Patrick
And-
only does one, buddy.
Yeah, I was gonna say sometimes. Depends.
And whenever
just give me a
when
series.
when you're editing, though, you'll be able to pick the best thing that fits the tone of whatever you're working on. In season 2, I felt like there was just like one take every time, and you just had to deal with it because things didn't seem to work out. It felt that way. Like the dialogue felt off, as if some of the people weren't even in the room while they were talking to each other. But in this season, I felt like every line hits. And you're right, that line when he said engaged, I felt it. The hair on the back of my neck stood up for a second.
Well
I
said, bro.
have a horrible feeling that there was a bit of we can phone this in going on with Picard when it's in the first 2 seasons. I was so excited when it was announced. I was so. I know I don't want to accuse anyone of not working really hard and giving it their best and trying to make the best show they can, because I know that's not the case. I know that everyone is trying to make the best show they can.
Right. No,
it's-
you're right. I think the problem I think was, and we've gone through this a bunch of times, but we think that when Patrick Stewart came back, he had more of a hand in the writer's room than he previously did. He was in the writer's room with them. And I really think that he wanted to explore kind of Jean-Luc's, older age, but I think we were getting more Patrick Stewart older age thrown into the character. And somebody lost the voice of Picard along the way. And we finally found it again in season
That's a
3.
remarkably insightful thing you've just said there.
Thank you.
I'm just disappointed that we have 3
It's the hat.
seasons of Star Trek Picard and not one Dune buggy. So
Doom buggies were stupid. Hey, we got a super chat from Dirty Nerdy. I love that name so much. Rob, have you seen Major Grin's new Picard season 3 video?
I love Nitpicking Nerd and Major Grin, one and the same. I love their videos or his videos. I have not seen this video, but so many people have said to me I'm in this video. I have not seen it. I think it went up today. I don't know. I mean, I love his videos.
Very
Let me-
intelligent.
Let me see if I can find it. Actually,
I because it's apparently a pretty long video or something. I haven't.
It's 2
Hey,
minutes and 48
we're not
seconds.
in one of your videos. What's going on? Here we go.
But yeah, I'm a big fan of nitpicking.
wait,
nerd.
that's Major Grin or Nitpicking Nerd?
Major
Well,
Grin's
they're both this. Yeah, but it's. I guess it's I think it's Major Grin. It's a
On
Major
YouTube,
Grin
it's
video.
Major Grin. Yeah.
alt channel. Yeah, he came out with a video last week. We couldn't say anything about it, but it was pretty spot on.
Oh, it was about who? Yeah, it was great. And what was great was all the different things that he went through to. It was really well done, really well researched.
Wait, is this the same guy who had like 5 different theories of who the face was? And he was just like trying to push him out as quickly as possible. Like, yeah, that's the guy. That's the old throw the spaghetti against the wall and see what the sticks method. I love it. That's my method, bro. I appreciate it. Hey, here's the video.
Somebody says I'm at 59. Like I'm at 1 minute.
Oh, you're at 1 minute. Let's
I don't
find
know.
out.
That's what Jack and Harry Biggins says
All right,
in your
well,
chat.
let's find out. Let's find out.
I haven't seen it.
At 1 minute, huh?
Navigational system and arbitrarily
49 seconds.
every digit.
Or 50. Yeah, I don't understand what's going on. She mentioned it's this kind of a message, and Riker. Oh, it's this kind of a message, huh? No wonder you don't know what it is. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And Riker's like, well, when you were Locutus, when you were taken away from the Borg, you knew everything about our protocols, so we needed to come up with a way to communicate with one another, ship to ship, internal communications, or with other Starfleet vessels that you didn't know. So we created a protocol, a communications protocol that shifted numerals.
Hold up, I'm missing something.
I remember that episode, Rob. I remember that.
Is there context that I'm missing?
Well, I don't know I don't know why he's using this particular clip, but I thought it was one of the things that I had said is that I love it when people add to things that we like that we don't know. So when you're watching something on say Best of Both Worlds, we only saw the situation from the command deck of the Enterprise, the bridge.
Right.
But you have an entire starship full of biology labs, all different kinds that are probably working overtime to find out what the hell are we going to do. So it doesn't bother me when someone says, oh yeah, we had this codec where we shifted the numbers, or they tried to reprogram the thing and we had to change it around or whatever. I thought that was cool. I was like, that's really neat.
I did too.
And then people would say, well, how did Beverly know that Picard was going to be moving that day, and his old uniform and his old communicator would be in the position where he would hear it?
She didn't.
Well, she didn't. It was just
that's the answer.
Coincidence.
Yeah, it was. But I like that idea. I mean, I thought that
Matt's nerd like vein right now. When every time someone says coincidence, I could see it pulsating.
Matt's on good behavior. Leave him alone.
From Do Elmo, Daystrom Institute is getting
Rob. You're an entire like minute and 50 or 30 seconds of that video. 2 minute and 30-second video.
It's memorable.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was gonna be a quick thing. It's like the whole video. So
I
yeah,
didn't
go check it
realize.
out,
I
guys.
don't know.
From Do Elmo, Daystrom Institute is getting the doctor's womb in a jar. Stat. People complain about the doctor being too old to have a child. Don't forget, Insurrection.
Miracle.
No, it's Insurrection, man. It's first off, it's really freaking far into the future, and she had Jack, or she conceived Jack right after Insurrection when their biological clocks were turned backwards.
Does that also mean Troy's boobs are going to be in a jar because like they got perkier on?
They did get perkier in that episode. You're right. Yeah.
Firmer.
Also, I mean, medical technology probably is advanced. I mean, there's many different ways in the 25th century that anybody could.
Be funny if there was like a whole chamber on the Daystrom station dedicated to Worf's Gort.
I know a 54-year-old woman like last year that had a healthy child. So
yeah.
In Son of John for $10, thank you, Son of John. I was thinking about asking Rob how the interaction on Picard season 3 compares to Discovery, but I just remembered that on Discovery, 90% of the interaction revolves around Burnham and issues already done.
Holy shit.
That's rough.
Bro.
Shots fired.
I'm with you, Son of John. I pretty much gave up on Discovery season 4 when the ship was having emotional trouble. That's when I was. That's when I mentally checked out at that moment. But you know what they're saying that season 5 is
season
going to be
5. Yes, yeah, okay,
going to be
good point.
different.
Season
we'll give it
5,
a
they
shot.
said they've learned some lessons from the past. They're going to do some things differently. Then they
They've
got
said
canceled.
that every season.
No, they officially.
They've
No, trust
literally
me, we're
said
watching
that after every season.
I don't think so. I follow that pretty closely, and I was surprised that Michelle Paradise came out and said we've learned some lessons. But here's the interesting thing about that is, as soon as they announced that and then made it, then the season 5 was the last one. So I don't know what happened.
And maybe we've learned some lessons. And
I think
Paramount's like, wait a minute, no.
I think
can't make
Discovery was always designed to be a 5-season show. They
I
knew
think
it was
you're
going
right,
to because Brian Fuller said, "I hope it makes 5 seasons." He told me that a couple of years back.
That was also when the Netflix money ran out.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think they said something to the effect of, I mean, at least Sonequa Martin Green was under the impression, because somebody said, "Is this your last season?" She's like, "I don't see any end coming in the future." And I think those were, it's tough when you say stuff like that and then things change. But because Starfleet Academy is coming out, then that's likely going to be the spinoff that, for the fans who enjoy Discovery. So, any more, Brian?
No more super chats.
All
That's
right.
it. But I did have one parting thing. If we're wrapping it up, I want to thank Mark for being an awesome producer. Actually, a super chat just popped up. Sorry. Thanks for making me a liar, War Doggy.
Well, they did that on purpose.
I showed up late, but you were hanging out with my future fishing buddy, and he is the source of all things ShuttlePod Show. No, I was going to thank Mark for the same thing. Like the ShuttlePod Show, if you have not subscribed to the ShuttlePod Show, you haven't seen it, go do it. We are streaming currently on 2 channels right now. We're streaming on the Popcast Prime. There's 151 of you watching. This channel has 113,000 subscribers. At least 5,000 people will see this before the end of the week. And we're also streaming on Popcast Unleashed, our other channel. 341 of you guys are watching. It has more than 5,000 subscribers, so a few thousand of you at least will see it by the end of this week, which means by the end of this week, I can assume 10,000 people will hear this message. And I'll say right now, if you are not subscribed to the ShuttlePod Show, you're missing out. It's a good time. It's a good
Also,
time
follow them on Apple Podcast and Spotify, because if you're on the go and you can't watch YouTube, that's the next best thing.
I mean, I guess you're right. I have YouTube Premium, so I can just listen the same way. But either way,
money bags over here.
Yeah, it's money. It's like $15. Go check it out, guys. It's good. It's really good. I want to thank Mark for being on today and just being a great guest, and for all the production he does over there. I know you probably make these guys look good, but you probably make them look a little better. And I know that as the guy in the back end who makes everyone look good. I know the struggle, my friend.
That's too bad you can't make yourself look good. So we'll work on that. But I'm just kidding. Well, you said you made everybody look good. So
no, you're right.
You fired the first shot.
Mark, how do you get Connor to actually show up instead of just calling him through his phone?
Oh. I can't.
I'd like to know the secret.
I want to know how you get them to come on time, because I have that problem every Thursday. I have this one guy that I do a show with. I can never get him to show up on time.
There's only one of us, so I know what you're talking about.
I have found that whiskey motivates a lot of people.
Yes, well said. Brian, whiskey. See, you've missed it. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show today. You guys have anything else you want to mention?
I will say this: the guys actually don't need motivating. What we're doing, the impact that we're having in this community, and the response from the community is really filling them with pride, and they're really excited about what we're doing, and they're excited about learning more about Star Trek than they had before. We are having more fun than ever before. So. I don't need to trick them into showing up on time. They're having a blast, and bless them for doing it.
Rob?
Oh, just doing stuff on my channel, and during our last, we'll probably do a wrap up, but our Picard after show that we do on Thursdays at 8:00 has been a lot of fun. We had I interviewed Sean Tretta last week, and then Matt and Christopher Monfett. Hopefully I can get Terry to come on the last show, and then maybe Dave Blass.
That would be great. Yeah, we're trying also for next Monday. The goal is hopefully we get Terry on here next Monday, or if not Chris, somebody who can wrap up the season with us and talk about everything that's happened. So that'll be a lot of fun. Matt, what you got for us?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank Mark and Erica for hanging out with us today. It's always nice to see fellow podcasters, especially the behind the scenes people that make the engine go. So definitely check them out on YouTube and the audio end of things on Apple and Spotify and all that stuff if you like that type of thing. We got a live stream going on tomorrow at 1:30 for the Salty Nerd podcast. So if you guys are around 1:30 p.m. Pacific time, you want to hang out with me, Alex, Vader, and Jude, hop on over to saltynerdvideo.com and check us out over there. And next Saturday, we're going to have the old school Picard review crew, including Brian, Salty Trekker, and Danny the Dork Knight, back to talk about the finale. So if you guys want to join us for that,
Salty Saturday crew.
Yeah, we
one
went
last ride.
2 terrible seasons of Picard, and so like we're bringing all back the OGs to talk about the final episode. So it should be fun.
Yeah, this is the last generation.
And we'll of course be back Thursday. That'll be the next time you'll catch us live. Catch us at noon or 12:30 on Thursday, where we'll be breaking down the final episode of Picard, scene by scene. As you've been with us every week, you know that we do this. We appreciate you guys. Make sure you get over to ShuttlePod Show, subscribe to the Burnett Work, subscribe to Salty Nerd Guys, and we thank you for all of your support and super chats and all of your comments today. We love you guys so much. See you next time.
Real quick. I'm sorry. If you're watching on the Popcast on our main channel, that review will be on Unleashed, and on the main channel that morning will be our produced breakdown on the main channel. So
we get it out to everybody, though. Yeah.
Adios, muchachos.